Chapter 1071. Ever since those troublemakers Duzhen left, Ning Fan had been staying in his room and meditating with his legs crossed. He did not come into contact with anyone. The darkness of the night gradually crept up the window frame. At 9:15 in the morning, a shadowy figure suddenly came to Ning Fan's room. That person was wearing black armor and a black helmet that only revealed his eyes. His eyes were dark green, making him look like a wild beast. The skin under the armor was fully wrapped in bandages, not revealing a single part of it. Ning Fan could not sense any trace of cultivation base from this person. However, as an ancient devil, he could still sense the enormous physical strength hidden in this person's body. At the very least, it was comparable to a late True Crossing Realm expert. Ning Fan knew that this armored soldier who suddenly came was here to monitor his pill testing. It was a daily task that he had to carry out as a medicine slave of the He clan. After he arrived, he did not waste any time talking to Ning Fan. He directly took out 3 snow-white jade boxes and placed them on the table. Then he said with a cold tone, "Take one of them and consume it." Each of the 3 jade boxes contained an unknown pill. With the grade of Ning Fan's medicine soul, he could easily sense that there was something wrong with the 3 pills. They were more or less poisonous. The 3 pills were low-grade 8th Revolution, mid-grade 8th Revolution and high-grade 8th Revolution respectively. The higher the grade of the pill, the more poisonous it would be. An 8th Revolution poisonous pill of this grade could definitely poison a weak-life Immortal Realm expert to death within 10 breaths. Even if a True Crossing Realm expert were to consume it, it would also cause some damage to his body. The toxicity of these pills is not enough. Give me the most poisonous pill that you have the authority to consume. Ning Fan said indifferently. Are you sure? The reward for the pills with higher toxicity is certainly higher. However, if you die, you won't get anything. The armored soldier smiled coldly. He had seen too many medicine slaves like Ning Fan who lost their lives in vain because of greed. He would not show any mercy to such people who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He waved his hand and kept the 3 white jade boxes. Then he patted his storage pouch and took out a dark green jade box, placing it on the table. Inside the dark green jade box was a 9 Revolution lead grade poisonous pill. The surface of the pill was enshrouded by the green poisonous mist, forming a strange ring-shaped pattern. With Ning Fan's medicine soul, he could easily judge the level of toxicity of this pill. It was definitely powerful enough to kill any life immortal. Even if it was Duzhen, unless he was at the peak of Duzhen, he would be seriously injured or even killed. If you don't die after taking this pill, you can be promoted from sergeant to centurion. The armored guard looked at Ning Fan mockingly, as if he was laughing at Ning Fan for making the wrong choice. Ning Fan, however, did not answer the armored guard at all. Instead, he made a suction force in the air and pulled the pill from the table into his hand. Without even looking at it, he directly swallowed it. The poison power of throat-sealing blood immediately spread within his body. It wanted to wreak havoc inside his body, but it could not harm his divine spirit-crippled body at all. After consuming the pill, Ning Fan ignored the armored warrior and continued to meditate with his eyes closed. He didn't die immediately? The soldier was slightly surprised, then revealed a strange smile and said, "Tomorrow at noon, if you are still alive, I will take you to the residence of the Centurion of the 1st District. There's no need for that. I want to ascend to the 2nd District directly." Ning Fan said indifferently without opening his eyes. A newborn calf is really not afraid of a tiger. Very good. Very good. I can help you apply for this matter. Your physique seems to be very special. The armored guard kept the empty box and left with a strange smile. At noon the next day, a cultivator of He clan brought Ning Fan away from this place and headed to the 2nd District. The one who brought Ning Fan away was another armored guard. He was also wearing a helmet that only revealed his eyes. His body was covered with bandages under the black armor. Unlike the previous armored guard, the chi of this armored guard was much stronger. It was comparable to a mid-shedding Void Realm cultivator. As soon as he entered the 2nd District, Ning Fan felt thousands of spirit sense scanning towards him. When he realized that he was just at the Duzhen realm, those spirit sense were retracted indifferently. Basically, it was the medicine slaves of the second district who were checking on Ning Fan. Most of the medicine slaves in this district had Shedding Void Realm cultivation base. Only a small number of them were late True Crossing Realm and peak True Crossing Realm cultivators. Along the way, the armored guard did not talk to Ning Fan. He brought Ning Fan to an empty room that was covered with dust and left. Ning Fan did not ask any questions. He waved his hand to sweep away the dust in the room and sat cross-legged in meditation. Titles such as 10-Man Commander and Centurion were only valid in the first district. In the second district, these titles were no longer used to determine the ranks of medicine slaves. There was only one standard to determine their rank, and that was the length of time they served as medicine slaves in the He clan. Within 30 years, medicine slaves were classified as low-grade medicine slaves. 300 years were classified as middle-grade medicine slaves, and 3,000 years were classified as high-grade medicine slaves. Medicine slaves like Ning Fan, who had only been in the He clan for a day, were considered as low-grade medicine slaves. Therefore, they could only enjoy low-grade treatment and live in a remote house without servants to serve them. As for those middle-grade and high-grade medicine slaves, they could enjoy the same treatment as distinguished guests in the second district. As long as they tested pills for the He clan would provide them with a certain amount of pills and cauldrons needed for their cultivation. It was because of such generous treatment that many cultivators would break their heads to enter the He clan to test their pills and exchange their lives for the rewards. Testing pills was just a scam. Providing cultivation resources to middle-grade and high-grade medicine slaves was also a scam. It was just like raising livestock for them. Ning Fan silently waited for the arrival of the night. As expected, there were armored soldiers who came to deliver the medicine to Ning Fan. There were 5 dark green jade boxes with 5 types of pills for Ning Fan to choose from. Take one and eat it. His tone was still cold and emotionless, as if he was talking to a domestic animal. Ning Fan's eyes scanned across the 5 pills. He realized that all of them were 9 revolutions lead pills. Even the one with the weakest poison power was much stronger than the pill he consumed in the first region. The poison marks on the elixir ranged from 2 to 6. It seemed that the more poison marks there were, the more potent the elixir's poison would be. Not enough. Take out the poison pill with the highest grade that you have access to. Ning Fan said expressionlessly. Jia. I heard that Du Zhen, who has a special physique, just arrived yesterday. He ascended to the second region in just one day. I didn't believe it at first, but now it seems that you really have something to rely on. Very good, very good. The soldier took back the 5 pills and took out a deep purple jade box. In the jade box, there was a 9 revolution silver pill. There were a total of 11 poison marks on the pill. The poison power that it gave off was enough to make most of the cultivators in Shikong turn pale. Ning Fan's face remained expressionless. He reached out his hand to take the pill and swallowed it in one go. Then he continued to meditate with his legs crossed without any change in his expression. The soldier's eyes flashed with light. He chuckled coldly and kept the jade box before leaving. At noon on the second day, without Ning Fan's request, someone brought Ning Fan to his residence in the third region. Even though he had only tested the pills for the He clan twice, according to the soldier, the higher-ups had already made an exception to promote him to a high-grade medicine slave. Now, he could enjoy great authority in the third region. The He clan had assigned a total of 12 maidservants to serve Ning Fan. Besides that, there were also people who delivered a large amount of pills and Dao fruits for Ning Fan's cultivation needs. Unfortunately, they were all things that could help Du Zhen improve his cultivation base. Ning Fan was not very interested in them. There were also a few authoritative figures of the He clan who came to visit Ning Fan. The visitors were a few young masters of the He clan. While conversing with them, Ning Fan found out that they had quite high statuses in the He clan. Basically, they were the direct descendants of the He clan's elders. They were also very enthusiastic towards Ning Fan. They were even generous enough to take out their cultivation methods and gift them to Ning Fan for him to cultivate. Ning Fan chatted with the few young masters of the He clan expressionlessly. After they left, Ning Fan dismissed the maidservants and continued meditating. Inwardly he sneered coldly. Those young masters of the He clan who seemed to be very enthusiastic towards him were probably just here to check on his physical body. As for the cultivation methods they gifted him, the He clan seems to be very satisfied with his physical body. It seems like I'm not far from death. There were only 120 to 30 medicine slaves in the third region. All of them had unique constitutions and were highly immune to poisonous pills. There were males and females among them. The lowest cultivation base was at the void-shedding realm. Ning Fan was the first person who ascended to the third region after reaching Duzhen. It was the third day since Ning Fan arrived at the He clan. As expected, some soldiers came to deliver medicine to Ning Fan again. What was strange was that this time, they did not deliver poisonous pills. Instead, they were all tonics. It was as if they wanted to adjust Ning Fan's body to its best condition. Under the watchful eyes of the soldiers, Ning Fan consumed all the tonics. Only then did the soldiers pack up and leave. On the fourth day, the gifts were still tonics. On the fifth day, the gifts were still tonics. On the sixth day, someone suddenly sent someone to bring Ning Fan to the fourth region. Many medicine slaves in the third region felt jealous of Ning Fan's rapid ascension to the fourth region. Many of them who had been medicine slaves in the He clan for thousands of years did not manage to ascend to the fourth region. Ning Fan, on the other hand, was able to achieve such a feat after just 6 days in the He clan. Obviously, he was different from them and was highly regarded by the He clan. What they did not know was that the so-called ascension to the fourth region was not luck but misfortune. Once one enters the fourth region, it was equivalent to stepping into the gates of hell. Ning Fan, however, knew this. He had already obtained this information from the tables and chairs. Thus, he did not encounter any accidents. He just used the scam of the medicine slaves of the He clan to invade the fourth region. There was not a single living medicine slave in the fourth region. There were only hundreds of ancient mountains that emitted death chi. Ning Fan was led to one of the ancient mountains by a group of sense-shattering guards and entered a cave on the ancient mountain. The cave was very spacious. There were thousands of coffins hanging on the ceiling. Only a few of them were empty while most of them were filled with corpses. Below the countless hanging coffins, there was an altar with flowing mercury. At the center of the altar, the few young masters of the He clan who had visited Ning Fan a few days ago were already waiting for him respectfully. When they saw Ning Fan again, they no longer pretended to be enthusiastic like before. Instead, they revealed a cold smile as if they were looking at livestock. What a perfect physical body! It can actually withstand the poison of the 9 Revolution Silver Pill without suffering any injuries at the mid-crossing truth realm. I want this body. I can use it to refine the body of my second primordial spirit. One of the young masters of the He clan said, "Third brother, you can't fight with me over this. Last time, I let you possess my fleshly body. You have to let me have this one. This fleshly body of mine has already reached its limit. It's time to change." Another person said, "I am lacking materials for a puppet. This person is very good. I will not let you have him." A fat young master said, "Humph, it's a little too hasty to start snatching this body now. Let's kill this person first and test the compatibility of his corpse after death. Let's see which one of us has the most suitable requirement. Kill this person. Make sure to do it perfectly. Don't harm his physical body at all." A young master with a cold expression said. As soon as he gave the order, the group of sense-shattering warriors immediately sealed the space around Ning Fan, cutting off his escape route. One of the warriors took off his helmet and untied the bandage on his head, revealing a beast's face that was completely different from a human's. He opened his bloody mouth and a long tongue flew towards Ning Fan's face. That long tongue was full of barbs. There was also purple poisonous liquid flowing on the tongue. Occasionally, a drop of it would drip on the ground, corroding a huge pit. The long tongue flew all the way to Ning Fan's mouth. It wanted to invade his body and kill him silently with the poison. In the eyes of the cultivators of the He clan, Ning Fan was just a mid-crossing truth realm cultivator. After the space was sealed by more than 10 sense-shattering warriors, he should not be able to move at all. He could not even activate his magic power. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was not a mid-crossing truth realm cultivator. Before that extremely disgusting long tongue could reach Ning Fan's mouth, it was crushed by Ning Fan's finger light. All the cultivators of the He clan were shocked. Obviously, they did not expect Ning Fan to have the ability to resist against more than 10 sense-shattering warriors. Now that he had successfully invaded the 4th region, Ning Fan naturally did not want to act like a weakling. He did not want to let that disgusting tongue enter his mouth. In a flash, Ning Fan turned into a flash of red light. Almost at the same time, more than 10 sense-shattering warriors of the He clan fell to the ground silently. There was a bloody hole in their dantian. Their primordial spirit had been hollowed out. Under the terrified gazes of the few young masters of the He clan, Ning Fan's hands were covered in blood. He crushed the primordial spirit of the He clan's cultivators one by one. Then, he turned into a red light and shrouded the few of them. Outside the space, in the attic where the life tokens of the He clan were kept, 19 life tokens were shattered at the same time. The cultivators of the He clan who were guarding the life tokens were shocked. A commotion broke out immediately. Unfortunately, it would still take some time for the commotion to reach the 4th region where Ning Fan was. It would also take some time for the news to reach the ears of the immortal emperor who was in seclusion in the 4th region. During this period of time, Ning Fan could do a lot of things. He conveniently took away the storage pouches of those unlucky cultivators and scanned the corpses in the cave with his spirit sense. There were a total of more than 700 corpses, ranging from Duzhen to Shikong. All of them were excellent corpses. They were the medicine slaves of the He clan since ancient times. Ning Fan did not touch these corpses. He noticed that there was an extremely subtle alarm restriction on the coffins. Once he steals these useless corpses, the immortal emperor would immediately notice it. If he fought with that immortal emperor before finding a suitable body for Zhang Yu, it would be troublesome. Ning Fan's figure flashed and disappeared from the place. Then he secretly sneaked into the ancient mountains where the corpses were kept. Each of the ancient mountains was guarded by armored guards. However, most of them were at the true immortal realm. With Ning Fan's innate ghost mask's invisibility ability, it was naturally impossible for him to be discovered by the guards. As an ancient divine being, he no longer had any restrictions when using the innate ghost mask. He could turn invisible anytime and anywhere. Hence, Ning Fan searched through the ancient mountains one after another. He even found more than 10 corpses of immortal venerables and immortal kings. However, he still could not find any corpses above the immortal emperor realm. Aren't they in these ancient mountains? With no other choice, Ning Fan took out the treasure-searching compass and activated it with his mind. Immediately, hundreds of bright light spots appeared on the compass. All of them were gathered at the same spot. It was the place where the immortal emperor of the 4th region went into seclusion. The hundreds of light spots were all corpses above the immortal venerables. There were even a few immortal emperor realm corpses. It seems like I won't be able to take away the corpses of immortal emperors without fighting with that immortal emperor. Just as Ning Fan kept the treasure-searching compass, a spirit sense that was as vast as the sea of stars suddenly descended from the sky and enveloped Ning Fan's body like a shadow. How dare you search the place where my He clan keeps the corpses? You're courting death. The news of the lives of the cultivators of the He clan being broken had yet to reach this immortal emperor's ears. However, he still sensed the fluctuations of the treasure-searching compass when Ning Fan was using it at such a close distance. Ning Fan sighed helplessly. This was the reason why he did not use the treasure-searching compass in the beginning. He was too close to this immortal emperor. If he uses it with a purpose, it would very likely attract his attention. Forget it. So be it. I'm going to fight him anyway. Ning Fan removed the middle-aged scholar's disguise. In a flash, he appeared 1,000 li away. He was high up in the sky, looking down at a golden mountain below him. This mountain was the place where the immortal emperor of the He clan went into seclusion. Ning Fan did not continue to disguise his appearance. This level of disguise could not fool the eyes of an immortal emperor at all. There was no need for him to do so. You know that I have already found you, but not only did you not run away, you even came to my cave residence to seek your death. Your courage is commendable, but aren't you a little too reckless? All of a sudden, a ray of purple light burst out from the mountain. Then, a fist light that carried purple poisonous chi blasted towards Ning Fan. It was the attack of an immortal emperor. However, Ning Fan, who had already killed a peak immortal king, would not show any fear even if he were to face an immortal emperor head-on. When the immortal emperor's fist arrived, Ning Fan also responded with a punch. In terms of strength, Ning Fan was weaker. Thus, he was sent flying away by the immortal emperor's punch. Unfortunately, the immortal emperor's fist light still failed to cause any damage to Ning Fan's divine spirit crippled body. While he was flying backward, Ning Fan forcefully stabilized his body. After finding out that the immortal emperor was an immortal emperor who was proficient in body refinement, he no longer blindly used his physical body to attack him. Instead, he pointed his finger at the sky. Immediately, a ray of ocean blue sword light appeared out of nowhere. It was imbued with the brilliance of 6 types of Tao laws and pierced through the sky towards the immortal emperor of the He clan. It was the ocean-defying sword. The immortal emperor of the He clan's eyes widened in shock. He did not expect that his opponent, who was merely an immortal venerable of the 10,000 ancient immortal venerables, could actually withstand his full-powered punch without suffering any injuries. Moreover, he did not expect that his opponent's casual attack would actually contain the attack of 6 types of Tao laws. Even a 6th tribulation immortal emperor like him could sense a hint of danger from that flying sword. Even though the immortal emperor of the He clan was proficient in body refinement, he did not dare to use his physical body to take on the sea-defying sword recklessly. Instead, he took a slight step backwards. While he was retreating, he conjured up 24 poisonous banners in a row, directly trapping the sea-defying sword in midair. The 24 poisonous banners were the innate magic treasures that he had refined for many years. If it was an ordinary magic treasure, the connection between it and its host would probably be severed after being trapped by his poisonous banners. Then, he would be able to seize the magic treasure by force. Unfortunately, the sea-defying sword was not a magic treasure. It was a Tao weapon. Tao weapons were not as powerful as magic treasures of the same grade. However, they had the advantage of being able to retract and release them at will. No matter how far away they were from their master, they could return to their master's side in a flash as long as their master calls them. Therefore, Ning Fan merely summoned the sea-defying sword with his mind. The trapped sea-defying sword immediately flashed out of the poisonous banner's encirclement. Then, it continued to slash at the immortal emperor of the He clan without losing any momentum. It can ignore the encirclement, huh? It's actually a Tao weapon. The immortal emperor of the He clan narrowed his eyes slightly. Obviously, he did not expect that a mere Tao weapon could actually give him a sense of danger. As he performed a hand seal, a large amount of poisonous mist was summoned from the poisonous banners. It turned into tens of poisonous swords that were enshrouded in purple light, clashing with the sea-defying sword. Each of these poisonous swords had the power of 12 nirvana levels. Besides, after being destroyed by the sea-defying sword, they could be reborn again and again. For a moment, the sea-defying sword could not break through the layers of poisonous swords' encirclement at all and reach the immortal emperor of the He clan. The immortal emperor of the He clan formed another hand seal. Another large amount of poisonous mist flew out from the poisonous banners. This time, it did not condense into poisonous swords. Instead, it condensed into a gigantic purple poisonous dragon that charged at Ning Fan. Even Ning Fan, who had a crippled divine spirit body, could feel a hint of danger from such a powerful poison. It was no longer possible for him to take it head-on with his physical body. However, he did not need to use the God-exterminating shield to defend himself. With a wave of his hand, a rainbow-colored small tree that was around 1 chi long appeared in his hand. With a thought, the tree instantly grew to the length of a flying sword, which was suitable for Ning Fan to use. Without saying a word, Ning Fan wielded the 7 treasures wondrous tree and swung it. The gigantic purple poisonous dragon that was giving off a mighty aura was instantly broken and exploded. The energy that the gigantic purple poisonous dragon contained was too massive. The momentum of the explosion directly shook the entire forbidden area. The violent wind from the explosion swept across the entire forbidden area. The purple poisonous liquid splashed along with the violent wind, turning into a poisonous rain that sprinkled across the entire forbidden area. Countless houses melted under the poisonous rain, producing sizzling sounds of corrosion. Countless cultivators and medicine slaves of the He clan whose cultivation base was not strong enough died after being drenched by the poisonous rain. The immortal emperor of the He clan frowned. He did not expect that so many people would die under the shockwave of his ability. Of course, such a number of lives was just a trivial matter to an existence like him. What shocked him the most was that the power of the rainbow-colored small tree in Ning Fan's hand was really terrifying. It actually broke his poisonous dragon. Is this the legendary magical treasure of the Buddhism clan, the Seven Treasures Wondrous Tree? It seems like it has yet to advance to the innate realm, but its power is not inferior to ordinary innate magical treasures. It seems like it is not too far away from the innate realm. After I kill you, this treasure will belong to me. A trace of greed flashed in the eyes of the immortal emperor of the He clan. He made a hand seal and the poisonous mist instantly turned into a giant axe, slashing towards Ning Fan. The axe slashed the tree based on the principle that metal restrains wood. Unfortunately, this principle was useless in front of the absolute power of the Seven Treasures Wondrous Tree. The Seven Treasures Wondrous Tree swung again and the giant axe was also broken. It's useless, huh? It seems like the poison illusion power of the Five Venom Banner is no match for your Seven Treasures Wondrous Tree. If that's the case, this old man has been cultivating poison for his entire life. I have painstakingly refined 3 drops of immemorial poison marrow. This is one of them. The immortal emperor of the He clan suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a ray of purple light. The purple light could not be seen clearly. As soon as it appeared, it shot towards Ning Fan. Ning Fan used the Seven Treasures Wondrous Tree to slash the purple light into 2. However, after the purple light was split into 2, 2 rays of purple light flew towards Ning Fan from the left and right. Another slash. 2 turned into 4. Another slash. 4 turned into 8. Ning Fan understood now. The items used by the immortal emperor of the He clan seemed to be immune to the power of the Seven Treasures Wondrous Tree. Moreover, the more he slashed, the stronger the power of the tree became. It was not suitable to use the Seven Treasures Wondrous Tree to fight against it. Immediately, he summoned the Seven Treasures Wondrous Tree to the sky to protect the top of his head. Then, he formed a hand seal with all 10 of his fingers and breathed out devil flames. The 12 Nirvana devil flame instantly turned into thousands of fire phoenixes and swallowed the purple light. Trying to burn my poisonous mist with flames? That's a good method. Unfortunately, your flames are not powerful enough. ZZZ one by one, the fire phoenixes were poisoned to death by the purple light. They scattered into flames and were extinguished. Then, the 8 rays of purple light shot towards Ning Fan, who was at the center of the area. The means of an immortal emperor is indeed extraordinary. It's incomparable to a peak immortal king. Ning Fan sighed inwardly. He was able to kill Bai Lu with his own means. However, if he wants to kill this immortal emperor of the He clan, it seemed like it was not enough to rely on the means he used the previous time. Under the attack of the purple light, a giant that was engulfed in golden flames finally appeared. The poison power of the purple light was terrifyingly strong. However, it was still far from enough to break the god-destroying giant's defense. It kept colliding with the golden body of the god-destroying giant, but it could not break through at all. What kind of ability is this? It actually has such a terrifying defense. The immortal emperor of the He clan sucked in a cold breath. His eyes darkened and he breathed out another ray of purple light from his mouth. The purple light that was attacking the god-destroying giant instantly became twice as strong. Unfortunately, it still could not break the god-destroying giant's defense. 2 drops of immemorial poison marrow are not enough, huh? If that's the case, I'll use 3 drops. Another ray of purple light was shot out. The purple light that was attacking the god-destroying giant suddenly became unprecedentedly strong. However, it was still not enough to break Ning Fan's defense. How is this possible? How can the Doomsday Immortal Venerate's defense reach such a level? If it's an ancient immortal venerate, it might be possible. The immortal emperor of the He clan was both shocked and enraged. He was angry because he, a dignified immortal emperor, actually could not do anything to an ancient immortal venerate. If this matter were to spread, he probably would not be able to stay in the Wood Flame clan anymore. At that moment, he no longer held back and displayed his eternal true body. His aura force instantly rose to the peak of the eternal 6 tribulations. A 100 zhang tall toad that was emitting purple poison appeared on the other side of the sky. The toad's back was covered with huge sacs that were spewing venom. They were emitting unimaginable poison power. That level of poison power was already at the first grade of Dao Law. Moreover, it had been cultivated to an extremely high level. Is he going to go all out? Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of seriousness. He felt a sense of danger from the immortal emperor of the He clan's eternal true body. It was a sense of danger that was far greater than the one he felt from enlightened being Bai Lu's Joss flame sword. While Ning Fan was defending himself against the continuous attacks of the purple light, he was also paying attention to the possible special technique that the toad might use. Even though he had already been vigilant, he still fell into the trap. He who was hiding inside the god-destroying giant's body suddenly coughed out a mouthful of poisonous purple blood without any warning. His expression changed. Even though he was protected by the god-destroying giant and the poison attack of the immortal emperor of the He clan, he was still poisoned. I see. He had successfully cultivated the Tao of Wood. Thus, he could continuously absorb the power of heaven and earth to restore his magic power. In order to use his various abilities, he needed to borrow power from heaven and earth continuously. The god-destroying giant could defend against the enemy's attacks. However, if Ning Fan takes the initiative to absorb the power of heaven and earth, the god-destroying shield would not stop him. The power of heaven and earth in this space had actually been tainted by the immortal emperor of the He clan's eternal true body and turned into a deadly poison. What a domineering eternal true body! What a domineering Tao of poison! This ability to poison the power of heaven and earth had probably touched the edge of the sovereign realm. The potential of this immortal emperor of the He clan is really high. Even if I transform into my eternal true body, I don't expect to be able to directly break through your golden body. However, if I poison the power of heaven and earth in this space and slowly try to destroy it, it will be a different story. Let me see how many times your immortal venerated realm magic power can sustain your defense without the replenishment of the power of heaven and earth. Boom boom boom, the purple light attacked the god-destroying giant at an unparalleled speed. Even though it could not break the giant's defense head-on, it continuously consumed Ning Fan's magic power. Defense required magic power. Moreover, it was a magic treasure at the level of the god-destroying shield. It naturally consumed a lot of magic power. In the past, Ning Fan had the convenience of the Wood Yin Yang technique, which allowed him to recover his magic power faster than ordinary people. That was why he could activate the god-destroying shield for a long period of time and fight against his enemies. Unfortunately, the immortal emperor of the He clan in front of him was an anomaly. He was a troublesome enemy who could cut off Ning Fan's magic power recovery. In that case, he could no longer fight a battle of attrition. If he only relies on his techniques to fight against enlightened being Bai Lu, he would definitely lose. You're just a mere immortal venerated realm junior. You can actually force me to use a trace of the sovereign realm's poison power. You should be proud of yourself. As a reward for you, I will preserve your corpse well after you die. There is definitely no one below the immortal emperor realm who has a physical body that is better than yours. I'm sure you can sell it for a good price. The purple poison toad sneered as if it had already won the battle. Ning Fan's body was being corroded by the deadly poison and it was getting harder to get rid of it. He knew that he could not delay any longer. Suddenly, his expression turned ruthless. He raised his finger and pointed at the sky. Instantly, a gigantic lightning diagram appeared in midair. Then, a bird's cry was heard from the lightning diagram. A gigantic sparrow which was enshrouded in lightning flew out and charged at the toad. A lightning beast with a 5th tribulation immortal king realm cultivation base? Huh. The toad's eyes shrunk. Then, it sneered and spat out purple mist, forcing the gigantic sparrow back into the lightning diagram. At the moment when the toad was distracted, a spatial crack suddenly appeared behind it. Then, a pink fist light shot out from the crack and landed on the toad's back. Even though the toad's physical body was strong, it was still slightly injured when it was hit by the fist without any warning. It let out a muffled groan and coughed out a mouthful of blood. Its eyes immediately turned gloomy. The one who attacked it was not an ordinary creature but a little girl who looked like she was 12 or 13 years old. She had a delicate face and a harmless smile on her face. However, the strength of her punch was comparable to that of a quasi-emperor realm expert. She's not a living person. She's actually just a puppet. A quasi-emperor realm puppet, is it? This is a good item that even I don't dare to have. You're just a mere immortal venerate, but you actually have one. After I kill you, this item will also belong to me. The toad opened its mouth and swallowed the quasi-emperor realm puppet, which was neither laughing nor crying, into its stomach. After that, it let out a comfortable burp. Then, it said to Ning Fan, who was struggling to defend against the purple light, with a mocking tone, "What other abilities do you have? Just use them all." And is it? Then, I'll show you the power of an ant. As Ning Fan smiled as if he had succeeded in his trick, the toad suddenly felt a sharp pain in its abdomen. After looking inside its body, it was instantly shocked. At this moment, there were actually hundreds of millions of ants inside its body. They were gnawing on its internal organs and devouring its primordial spirit. What kind of ants are these? When did they enter my body? They can actually bite my immortal emperor realm primordial spirit. Could they be the legendary immemorial ancient spiritual insects? Metal-devouring ants. There are actually so many of them. Is there any immortal emperor who can resist so many metal-devouring ants? But how could this young man possibly have so many of them? Something's not right. The toad, which was originally in shock, suddenly noticed something. Then, it let out a cold laugh and shouted, "Release!" The illusion of tens of thousands of ants gnawing on its body instantly disappeared. It turned out that the scene of ants gnawing on its body was just an illusion technique. As a dignified immortal emperor, it actually fell for such a small trick. The opponent's attainment in illusion techniques must be very high. On the surface, the toad was sneering. However, deep inside its heart, it felt a trace of lingering fear. It seems like the opponent doesn't know how to use an illusion technique that can kill with a single strike. Fortunately, it was just an ordinary illusion technique. If it's an illusion technique with great destructive power, it is highly likely that I would have already suffered serious injuries after falling so deeply into it. Unfortunately, an illusion technique of this level could not pose a fatal threat to him at all. At most, it could only confuse him a little. This young man really has many tricks up his sleeves. 6 types of Tao laws, 7 treasures wondrous tree, 5 tribulation immortal king realm spiritual beast, quasi-emperor realm puppet, giant golden body which even an immortal emperor could not break, and illusion techniques that could confuse an immortal emperor, not to mention the Dharma ending era. Even in the ancient cultivation flourishing era, there were not many immortal venerables who were as powerful as him. Being able to kill such a genius with such aptitude made the toad's heart filled with a twisted excitement. "Young man, your illusion technique can't do anything to me. What other trump cards do you have? Quickly use them. Don't even think about escaping from this world. You should know that the space of this world is actually refined from the stomach of my eternal true body. Without my permission, you won't be able to escape." Escape? Why should I escape? Ning Fan's voice carried an eternally cold tone. It suddenly descended from the sky. Be it the 5 tribulation immortal king realm's ancestral lightning sparrow or the quasi-emperor realm puppet, all of them were just bait to attack him. Ning Fan did not expect to kill an immortal emperor with these methods. What Ning Fan wanted was a sneak attack to injure him. When an immortal emperor of the He clan was injured by a sneak attack, he would more or less have a slight fluctuation in his state of mind. This moment of fluctuation was the best time for Ning Fan to use his illusion technique. Besides, the illusion technique was not his ultimate goal. It was just a final blow to the water-drowning world bottle to buy him some time to set up his trap. Ning Fan's killing intent had already been triggered. He wanted to use the full power of the 3 water-drowning world bottle to kill an immortal emperor in this place, in the He clan. Once the 3 water-drowning world bottle is activated, it would be enough to kill an immortal emperor. However, there was a precondition. He must not let the immortal emperor escape in advance. Even someone as powerful as the water-drowning world bottle had to seal the heavens and lock the earth in order to drown the 7 rebellious immortal emperors in the past. Without this preparation, even if the immortal emperor could not defend against the power of the water-drowning world bottle, he could still escape without a trace. If an immortal emperor runs away at all costs, no matter how powerful the water-drowning world bottle is, it would only hit empty air. Ning Fan did not want this immortal emperor of the He clan to escape. During the time when he was tricking the immortal emperor with his illusion technique, Ning Fan had already activated the word, force, and completely sealed the space of this forbidden area. The toad who was mocking Ning Fan finally regained his consciousness from the illusion technique. At the first moment when his 5 senses were completely restored, he smelled the salty sea breeze and heard the sound of waves. The toad raised his head abruptly. Then he could no longer laugh. All that was left on his face was shock and despair. The sky of this world had already disappeared. What replaced it was a vast ocean that hung upside down in the sky. What kind of ocean is that? A drop of seawater fell from the sky and landed on his body. It actually caused him to cough out a trace of blood. It was just a drop of seawater, but it actually contained such terrifying power. If the entire ocean were to fall, the toad's heart was pounding non-stop. He could clearly feel the terror of the ocean above his head. He could feel the chi of the magic treasure that was constantly emitting from the bottle in Ning Fan's hand. It was actually a mid-grade innate magic treasure. It was a supreme treasure that even a quasi-Saint Realm expert might not necessarily have. How could this young man have such a terrifying trump card? If he doesn't escape now, he would certainly die under this ocean and become a soul of the dead. 10,000 Li poison movement technique. The poison pouch on the toad's back suddenly spewed out venom. His body shook and he moved at full speed, trying to escape by using the venom that filled the sky. Unfortunately, after his body shook, he actually remained at the same spot. He did not even move a single inch. Only then did he realize that the space of this place was actually filled with golden seals without him knowing when. There was no way for him to escape at all. Even if this place was the space inside his stomach, he still could not enter and exit freely. Could it be that this young man's illusory technique is just to gain the time to seal the heaven and earth? Damn it! Damn it! If he had enough time, he would only need a few breaths to break all the seals. However, right now, he no longer had the time to break these seals. The ocean that was hanging upside down in the sky suddenly fell from the sky like a soul of the dead. Ferocious waves surged up to the sky and flooded the entire world. In this world, there was no corner that was safe. Every corner was under the attack of the ocean. The moment the toad was submerged by the waves, it was already severely injured. It could not get rid of the heavy waves at all. All it could do was to scream in despair. Wait, little friend, please don't. Little friend, please spare me. A miserable scream came from the forbidden area of the He clan. Under the waves, it was the toad's voice that was struggling bitterly. After all, he was an immortal emperor. Even if he was submerged in the defying mortal sea, he would not die in a short period of time. Even if his physical body was destroyed, his golden primordial spirit could still hold on. However, it was just a matter of time and it was a futile effort. 8 hours later, a loud explosion of primordial spirit self-destructing was heard from the bottom of the sea. Then, the struggle under the waves completely stopped. On the calm ocean, Ning Fan stood on a huge clean bottle and floated along with the waves. Beneath the waves, unresolvable resentment surged to the sky, gushing out endlessly. The resentment of a dead immortal emperor. When his bone age reached 120,000 years, he finally killed an immortal emperor for the first time in his life. Even with Ning Fan's calm personality, he felt a little excited at this moment. Because being able to kill an immortal emperor meant that the current him was truly standing at the peak of the cultivation world in the age of chaos. Of course, the backlash of using the power of water in the bottle could not be completely ignored even if he had the body of a crippled divine spirit. In addition to the corrosion of the violent poison in his body, even though he had killed an immortal emperor, his internal injuries were not light. Outside the forbidden area of the He clan, more and more armored soldiers gathered. These people originally wanted to enter the forbidden area to investigate the matter of the broken life plates in the life plate pavilion. However, at this moment, they did not dare to enter the forbidden area without permission because of the terrifying tremors that were constantly leaking out from the space of the forbidden area. Their immortal emperor old ancestors seemed to be fighting with someone. If they enter the forbidden area at this moment, they would undoubtedly be drawn into the terrifying tremors and lose their lives in vain. Judging from the situation in the life plate pavilion, it seemed like all the cultivators of the He clan who were stationed in the forbidden area had died. It was enough to show how terrifying the shockwaves of the battle in the forbidden area were. It seems like the expert who invaded our He clan this time is not an ordinary person. Old Ancestor has been fighting for so long, but he still couldn't take him down. However, the one who will win in the end will definitely be Old Ancestor. After all, Old Ancestor has been absorbing the poisonous corpses left by the sacred ancestor day and night for his cultivation. His poisonous techniques are extraordinary. Although Old Ancestor isn't the strongest among the immortal emperors at the same level as him, he has never been defeated before. No matter how weak he is, he can still draw with the other immortal emperors with his poisonous techniques. Judging from the chi that occasionally leaked out from the intruder, he doesn't seem to be an immortal emperor but an ancient immortal venerable? Impossible. How can a mere immortal venerable last so long against Old Ancestor? You must have sensed wrongly. Haven't you heard? A few days ago, an immortal venerable cultivator from the Great Bay Plains killed a peak immortal king. It's said that the immortal venerable with unfathomable power was a ghost-faced cultivator. Hiss. If there really is such a powerful immortal venerable in this world, then there is a reason why Old Ancestor can't end the battle quickly. Could it be that the person who invaded our He clan is that ghost-faced immortal venerable who committed murder in the Great Bay Plains? It shouldn't be the same person. Our tri-flame barrier will not allow cultivators of the Great Bay Plains to enter as they please. However, if that ghost-faced cultivator who caused trouble in the Great Bay Plains is a member of our tri-flame barrier or he has a permit to enter, then we can't rule out the possibility that he is the intruder. 8 hours later, the discussion came to an abrupt end. The shockwaves from the battle that had lasted for 8 hours in the forbidden area had finally subsided. Looks like Old Ancestor has taken down that intruder. The cultivators of the He clan celebrated joyfully. Some of them even opened the entrance of the forbidden area, intending to enter and clean up the ruins of the battle for Old Ancestor. However, after the entrance of the forbidden area was opened, the person who walked out was not their powerful Old Ancestor. Instead, it was an unfamiliar ghost-faced cultivator. The silver-haired cultivator with the ghost-faced cultivator's body was flickering with a demonic blood-red light. He was also emitting an indescribably terrifying murderous aura. Behind the ghost-faced cultivator, there was a giant toad corpse that was over 100 zhang long being dragged by the threads of the Tao laws. Ghost-faced cultivator. Is it really the ghost-faced cultivator who committed murder in the Great Bay Plains? Isn't that toad the Old Ancestor's ancient true body? Why is the ghost-faced cultivator still alive? Where is Old Ancestor? Old Ancestor is dead. Old Ancestor is dead. Heaven is going to destroy our He clan. Everyone run. It was an elder of the He clan who was guarding the life token pavilion. His face suddenly turned pale and he rushed to inform the members of the He clan about the worst news. For a moment, everyone in the He clan was speechless. A few of them refused to believe it, but most of them chose to believe it. In the face of Ning Fan's monstrous murderous qi, even some of the immortal venerables could not remain calm. They gritted their teeth and finally began to flee in a frenzy. If an immortal emperor is born in a clan of the same bloodline, all the clansmen would have some kind of improvement in their bloodline. However, at this moment, the improvement in their bloodline had clearly disappeared. It is highly possible that old ancestor has really fallen. He was killed by this ghost-faced cultivator of unknown origin. An immortal venerable of the ancient immortal venerables killing an immortal emperor sounded extremely absurd. However, if this is true, all the cultivators of the He clan must flee. Otherwise, they would probably be killed and uprooted by this ghost-faced cultivator. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Since when did the He clan offend such a malefic star? Could it be that there is a descendant of this malefic star among the medicine slaves that they secretly killed? Damn it, damn it. If they knew that there would be such retribution, they would certainly not have harmed those medicine slaves. Less than 1 out of 10 of those who dare to fight will survive, huh? Ning Fan's expression was filled with deep exhaustion. He forcefully suppressed the deadly poison and injuries in his body and waved his hand, throwing away the giant toad corpse behind him. Then, with a flash of his body, he turned into a ray of red light and vanished without a trace. Wherever the demonic red light flashed, the bodies of the cultivators of the He clan were penetrated by it without any resistance. Amidst the screams, some of them exploded and died continuously. The He clan was not a kind clan. The members of their clan were engaged in dirty business. The number of medicine slaves they killed was even more so. Killing an old ancestor of the He clan was the same as killing an entire clan. Anyway, Ning Fan had already started killing. Facing a malignant tumor like the He clan, he would not hold back like he did in the Sea Shaman tribe. 1 hour later, the entire He clan was covered with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. 1 day later, an earth-shattering news spread across the entire Three Flames realm. It even spread to the other side of the Great Bay Grassland. From the immortal emperors of the He clan to the ordinary armored soldiers, 30,000 cultivators of the clan were all slaughtered. According to some witnesses who happened to pass by this place, the murderer was a silver-haired cultivator with a ghost mask. According to those who were observant, this ghost mask cultivator was the same person who killed enlightened being Bai Lu of the Great Bay Grassland a few days ago. The experts of countless forces went out and began to frantically gather information about this ghost mask cultivator. They had to be cautious. This time, it was the entire He clan that was annihilated. Who knew which clan would be annihilated next time? An existence that could prevent the old ancestor of the He clan from escaping was enough to make most of the Three Flames immortal emperors feel their scalps go numb. They must find out the identity and purpose of this person. Countless forces of the Three Flames raised the security of their clans to the highest level. The Three Flame Lords who had not met each other for many years finally met again in the Corpse Mountain Range to discuss the annihilation of the He clan in the Corpse Mountain Range of the Skyflame continent. At this moment, the Lord of the Skyflame, the Death Emperor, the Lord of the Spiritual Mountain, the Lord of the Stone Flame and the Lord of the Wood Flame, the Thousand Hands Great Emperor, were gathered together. All of their expressions were gloomy. The subordinates of the various continents who were serving the Three Flame Lords were trembling with fear. They were afraid that they would lose their lives if they said something wrong when the Three Flame Lords were enraged. Have all the corpses of the sacred ancestors been taken away by this person? The corpses of immortal venerables and immortal kings are fine, but the corpses of immortal emperors must not fall into this cultivator's hands. Moreover, there was a quasi-saint corpse among them. In the past, we had made an agreement that whoever truly attains that level would be able to enjoy the quasi-saint corpse and improve their cultivation base. Now that the corpse has been taken away, doesn't that mean our agreement is just a piece of paper? Even though that quasi-saint corpse is a woman, if it's beneficial to my cultivation base, why would I hesitate to turn into a woman? Damn it, damn it. This man deserves to be killed. If I find out his whereabouts, I will certainly tear him into pieces. The great sovereign of the Spirit Mountain and the Thousand Hands great sovereign cursed at Ning Fan one after another. Only the dead emperor remained silent with a gloomy expression. After a long time, he interrupted. My karma search can't find his whereabouts. What? Impossible. Nothing is impossible. This man can block my karma search. It reminds me of someone. Does Space Lord know who that person is? I have a rough guess. If the two of you are willing to help me guard the Corpse Mountain range for a period of time, I can personally go and try to capture this man and take back the Quasi-Saint corpse. Ah, that's great. With Space Lord's help, this matter will surely be solved easily. If that's the case, Lord Mu and I will wait for Space Lord's good news in this Corpse Mountain range. Good news? You two shouldn't have too much hope. That young man has escaped from my hands once. It's still unknown whether I can find his whereabouts or not. Even if I can, I have less than 20% confidence in keeping him here. What? This young man can actually escape from Space Lord's hands. Isn't he an ancient immortal venerable? Both Stone Lord and Wood Lord were shocked. As for the dead emperor, he gave Stone Lord a playful glance. Even if we look for a needle in a haystack, we probably won't be able to find him. However, what if we wait for him to come to us? What an interesting young man. Let's see if you can escape from me for the second time. Don't think that just because you killed a Sixth Tribulation immortal emperor of the He clan, you are qualified to be on equal footing with the true experts among the immortal emperors. You are still too inexperienced. Chapter 1072. After annihilating the He clan, Ning Fan left and found a secluded place to enter the profound Yin world. Different from killing Bai Lu, the spoils he obtained from this battle were far more than what he obtained from the previous battle. After all, it was the foundation of an entire immortal emperor realm. Pills and magic treasures of various grades were piled up like mountains in the profound Yin world. Ning Fan distributed all the low-grade items to the human cauldrons in the profound Yin world. As for the high-grade items, the human cauldrons would not be able to use them given their cultivation bases. Thus, Ning Fan kept them for himself. He obtained a total of more than 2,000 bottles of pills that could help improve one's cultivation base. He also obtained tens of bottles of pills that could help improve one's cultivation base. After all, the He clan was a great clan that concocted pills with wood flames. Ning Fan also obtained many rare pills and pill recipes from the He clan. He even obtained many pill recipes for the 9 Revolutions Golden Pill and the Emperor Pill. There were countless rare medicinal ingredients. He even obtained a large number of Dao crystals. Unlike the grassland cultivators who loved gold, silver, and stone coins, the 3 Flame Realm cultivators seemed to be more practical. They were no different from the cultivators in the outside world. As for the corpses that the He clan had accumulated since ancient times, all of them were taken away by Ning Fan. Ning Fan also found a body that was suitable for Zhang Yu to possess. Initially, he only planned to seize a female corpse of an immortal emperor from the He clan. However, he did not expect to directly obtain a female corpse of a first-level Quasi-Saint Realm expert. This was a harvest that far exceeded his expectations. With the He clan's foundation, it was impossible for them to collect a female corpse of this level. There was only one possible origin for this corpse. It was something left behind by the Southern Medicine Saint. When Ning Fan showed the corpse to Zhang Yu, he first found it unbelievable. Then he hugged Ning Fan excitedly. This female empress who sometimes lost her mind really seemed to be looking forward to having a physical body again. Ha! You're indeed the little thief that I took a fancy to. You actually managed to get me a physical body. Moreover, it's a body of such high quality. When did you take a fancy to me? Why didn't I know about it? Don't worry. After I successfully possess this body, I will certainly repay your kindness. How should I repay him? Paying with my body? This is not a bad suggestion. It's a pity that possession requires a lot of time. It's not difficult for an existence like me to possess a physical body. What's difficult is to perfectly fuse the soul with the physical body. This process will take at least 100,000 years or even several million years. Before the perfect fusion, Even if I have a physical body, the cultivation I can use will definitely be less than 1/10 of my peak. Furthermore, before the perfect fusion, if you use too much of your cultivation, it might cause problems to your primordial spirit and physical body. Zhang Yu knitted her brows. Within a short period of time, it seemed rather difficult for her to help Ning Fan with her full cultivation base. Furthermore, if he really wanted to seize Jiang Yi's body, he would need to make a lot of preparations and deal with all kinds of troubles. After calming down slightly, Zhang Yu's face turned red. He realized that he had actually hugged Ning Fan because he was too excited just now. All of a sudden, her heart thumped wildly. She pushed Ning Fan away and rolled her eyes at him. She remained silent and did not know what to say. Ning Fan was speechless. She was the one who wanted to throw herself into his arms. Was it his fault now? He was not to the extent where he would get angry just because Zhang Yu rolled his eyes at him. Along the way, he and Zhang Yu had gone through many life and death situations together. Even though their relationship was still a little hostile, they could be considered to have a certain level of friendship. Now that he could help Zhang Yu truly cultivate her physical body, Ning Fan was also very happy. You don't have to worry about fusing with this physical body. It will take a lot of time. When I was helping you look for a physical body, I happened to obtain some pills that can help cultivators to speed up the process of body possession. The other party seems to be quite passionate about body possession. Therefore, he has quite a lot of these pills. Besides, I also have a lot of South Sea spring water which you can use. The South Sea spring water is not bad. But as for the pills, what grade are they? There are all kinds of grades. There are lead grade, silver grade, gold grade, and even emperor grade. That's great. I can't believe there are even emperor grade pills. If I have one of these pills, I can perfectly fuse myself with this physical body. I can save at least several 100,000 years of hard work. Not just one. There are about 15 to 16 of them. What? How can there be so many 9 revolutions emperor pills? What did you go through to help me look for a physical body? And your body? It's actually... Only now did Zhang Yu realize that Ning Fan's body seemed to have extremely serious injuries. He seemed to have been poisoned. Even she felt a little threatened by that poison. The little thief seemed to have become stronger again without her knowledge. Also, without her knowledge, he had encountered some life and death crises for her. The one who poisoned him was probably an immortal emperor. It's just a small matter. I've left you the pills, the physical body, and the other materials needed for body possession. You can try to possess this body in the profound Yin world. If you're fast, you might be able to perfectly fuse with this physical body after a few months and help me a little. Under Zhang Yu's complicated gaze, Ning Fan smiled indifferently. Then he turned around and left to look for Ouyang Nguan. The He clan was a great pill refinement clan. They had a lot of good items that only belonged to pill refinement masters. Ning Fan took out some of the items that were useful to Ouyang Nguan and left all of them to her. After that, Ning Fan entered a 10,000 years time tower. He might seem to be doing well in this battle as he had even successfully killed an immortal emperor. However, the injuries he suffered were also extremely serious. First of all, he had to face the backlash of using the 3-water realm bottle. Under the power of the 3-water realm, even the old ancestor of the He clan had to bear a grudge. However, Ning Fan did not have it easy either. The price he had to pay for using the 3-water realm bottle had directly caused serious injuries to his body. Even a crippled body that was as strong as a divine spirit realm was almost half destroyed from the backlash. Secondly, it was the fierce poison of the old ancestor of the He clan. Ning Fan was poisoned by the old ancestor of the He clan. The 3 drops of immemorial poison marrow were deeply rooted in his body like maggots that could not be removed. Even though he had consumed some gold pill and emperor pill antidotes, they could not alleviate the effects of the poison at all. This was the real troublesome part. In this battle, Ning Fan once again confirmed his combat power. If he uses the 3-water realm bottle without hesitation, he would become terrifyingly strong. As long as he sets up a good plan, he was confident that he could kill several 6th Tribulation immortal emperors, let alone one. However, the water realm bottle could not be used frequently. At least, Before Ning Fan's strength improves to the next level, he could not use it too often. Just by using it once in this battle, Ning Fan's internal organs, flesh, meridians, primordial spirit and sea of consciousness were almost half destroyed. It would take a long time for him to fully recover from his injuries. The price he had to pay was quite heavy. However, if he does not use the 3-water realm bottle, he would still be at a slight disadvantage when facing a real immortal emperor. It was almost impossible for him to win. After all, his cultivation base was too far away from an immortal emperor. Moreover, even if he could kill an immortal emperor by using the 3-water realm bottle, he could not guarantee that he would not be bitten by the immortal emperor. The poison that he was suffering from right now was a proof of that. The poison in my body is really a little troublesome. This poison power is close to that of a sovereign realm expert. Even an emperor-grade antidote pill can't remove this poison. Ning Fan frowned and looked inside his body. At this moment, the 3 drops of immemorial poison marrow were wreaking havoc inside his body like living creatures. Those were the 3 drops of the strongest poison that Hezu had spent his entire life to refine. They were the foundation of Hezu's Tao. Once he is poisoned, how could it be easily removed? Even with the strength of Ning Fan's crippled divine spirit body, his injuries kept worsening under the corrosion of this poison. If he does not remove this poison, it would be impossible for him to fully recover from his injuries. After pondering for a long time, Ning Fan finally made up his mind. With a wave of his palm, a dark green poisonous flower with towering poisonous chi appeared in front of him. It was the poison immortal triad that he obtained from the 100 Flowers treasure vault in the past. A single drop of this flower's poison could kill an immortal venerable, while the entire flower could kill an immortal king. It was a first-class poison. If one consumes this flower, it could greatly increase a cultivator's poison resistance. In the past, Ning Fan was aware of his own limitations and did not dare to consume this flower recklessly. However, now that his crippled divine spirit body was incomparably strong, he was no longer afraid of the flower's poison. It seems like this poison immortal triad alone isn't enough. Ning Fan waved his hand again. In an instant, a 100 zhang giant toad corpse appeared not far away from him. It was Ancestor He's eternal true body. It contained all of Ancestor He's ferocious poison. Ning Fan also took out hundreds of thousands of ancient corpses. They ranged from the corpses of life immortals to the corpses of immortal emperors. All of them were good items that he plundered from the He clan. With another move, Ning Fan took out hundreds and thousands of ferocious poisonous items. They were also the spoils of war that he obtained from annihilating the He clan. After that, he took out countless poisonous pills that the He clan had stored. There were hundreds of thousands of pills ranging from 8th Revolution pills to 9th Revolution Emperor pills. Besides that, Ning Fan took out thousands of poison cultivation techniques of the He clan. If I can't remove Ancestor He's poison using ordinary methods, I don't have to do it anymore. I just need to refine these 3 drops of poison. Ancestor He's poison is a corpse poison that was extracted from countless ancient corpses. From the perspective of classification, it can be considered as a corpse poison. Corpse poison isn't a strange power to me. When I was at the first step of cultivation, I had also cultivated the Tao of corpse devils. I can even use the essence chi of ancient devils to condense some weak poisons. Ancestor He was a Buddhist cultivator. The corpse poison that he refined has the same origin as Buddhism. If I devour it and use the Tao of ancient devils to refine this poison, I can cultivate the yin-yang poison. How about that? If I cultivate the yin-yang poison, I can't just cultivate corpse poison like Ancestor He did. The reason why he couldn't truly step into the sovereign realm was because his poison was too simple. If I cultivate it, Ning Fan's eyes sparkled. Then, he began his long cultivation that lasted for 10,000 years. The time in the outside world was still the moment before Ning Fan entered the tower. However, when Ning Fan walked out of the tower, his face was once again covered with the dust of 10,000 years. Bone age, 130,000. His injuries were completely healed. The poison in his body was still there, but it no longer harmed his body. Instead, It had become a part of his cultivation base. The second yin-yang of the ancient devils. Poison yin-yang poison was completed. The Tao scripture now had a new chapter on poison yin-yang. Due to the fact that his ancient devil bloodline did not change, the strokes of the devil talisman did not increase. However, the patterns of the devil talisman had been modified. In the beginning, there were many trees. Now, some unnecessary branches were missing. The extra strokes formed a poison immortal triad under a big tree. This devil talisman possessed the power of wood and poison at the same time. After cultivating the yin-yang poison, Ning Fan obtained the power of the seventh Tao law. Unlike the yin-yang poison that could speed up the recovery of his magic power, the yin-yang poison had the advantage of increasing his poison resistance to an unimaginable level. On the other hand, it also added poison attacks to his abilities and magic techniques. The Tao of poison was not as domineering as the Tao of fire and lightning. However, if it is used properly, it could sometimes be more difficult to defend against than the Tao of fire and lightning. If he were to fight against Ancestor He again, Ning Fan had great confidence that he could be completely immune to the poison attacks of He Zhu. After cultivating the yin-yang poison, Ning Fan's ancient devil cultivation base directly rose from the heavenly devil 10th nirvana to the 11th nirvana realm. As for his ancient god and ancient demon cultivation base, they had absorbed a large amount of medicinal power during the past 10,000 years of cultivation and broke through to the late thought fragmentation realm. The benefits of annihilating the He clan would certainly not be small. After all, the He clan was a dignified immortal emperor-level force. Unfortunately, this kind of business could not go on forever. On the surface, it was very easy for Ning Fan to annihilate the He clan. However, the actual risk was not low. If it wasn't because he insisted on finding a physical body for Zhang Yu, he would not be willing to fight to the death with the immortal emperor of the He clan. Fortunately, he won. What if there was a slight mishap in his water bottle plan, and he failed to kill He Zhu, and was killed by He Zhu instead? What if he was ambushed by another wood flame immortal emperor after killing He Zhu? If it isn't necessary, he would not take such a risk. Of course, if Zhang Yu succeeds in seizing the body and fuses perfectly with the female corpse of the Quasi-Saintess, it would be a different story. When that time comes, Ning Fan would also have some confidence in plundering some immortal emperor-level forces. It's naturally better to avoid unnecessary battles between immortal emperors. Unfortunately, there are always some battles that cannot be avoided, Ning Fan sighed softly. After walking out of the profound Yin world, he began to collect information about the other target of this trip, the 9-Fox innate sacrificial vessel. However, according to the information he collected, the sacrificial vessel that he was looking for seemed to be located in a very troublesome location. A few days later, Ning Fan snuck into the territory of the dead emperor, the Sky Flame continent from the Wood Flame continent. Along the way, he was even attacked by some immortal emperor realm devil creatures. Basically, they were just probing attacks and he quickly retreated from the battlefield. During this period of time, Ning Fan fought against an immortal emperor realm corpse devil that did not have spiritual intelligence twice. He fought against an immortal emperor realm corpse devil that had spiritual intelligence once. He fought against an immortal emperor realm corpse devil 4 times. He fought against an immortal emperor realm devil creature 3 times. Due to the incident of him annihilating the He clan, it seemed like there were more and more experts of the 3 flames appearing nowadays. Moreover, they were even more vigilant in investigating the unknown traveling light. That was also the reason why Ning Fan frequently encountered experts of the 3 flames and fought against them. Among the devil beasts, Ning Fan even coincidentally fought against an immortal emperor realm nightmare dragon. It was just when he was about to enter the border of the Sky Flame continent. With the strength of Ning Fan's crippled divine spirit body, even though he could not win against that Chua dragon who had a 6th tribulation realm cultivation base, he would not be defeated in just one blow. The man and the dragon were fighting fiercely. All of a sudden, that Chua dragon sensed a trace of the chi of the Chua dragon claw on Ning Fan's body. After being stunned for a moment, he directly gave up on attacking Ning Fan and transformed into his human form. Then he started chatting with Ning Fan in a friendly manner. I didn't expect you to be a chua dragon as well. This old man is really muddle-headed. I actually attacked my own race. These innate spiritual herbs were collected by me during the past 100,000 years. I'll give them to you as an apology. The one-eyed nightmare dragon elder touched his head apologetically. I'm not a chua dragon. Ning Fan was slightly speechless. After explaining, he still kept the spiritual herbs that the elderly chua dragon gave him for free. The old devil's devil Dao. It would be a waste not to take advantage of the enemy. Ha! I understand. I understand. The Chua Dragon clan has an awkward position in the Three Flames clan. Because their claws, scales, and horns are extremely suitable for refining treasures, they often become the targets of the other Three Flames immortal emperors. You want to hide your identity, this old man understands very well, but unfortunately, your sharp claws, can't hide from this old man's intelligent eyes. The one-eyed old man had an expression of, I understand, and said to Ning Fan with a kind smile. You don't understand. This Chua Dragon Claw is a type of spiritual equipment. From a certain point of view, I'm considered to be your greatest enemy since I possess the corpse spiritual equipment of your kin. This battle should still continue. Ning Fan said, Ha! You really like to joke. An ordinary Three Flames expert who possesses the corpse spiritual equipment of my Chua Dragon definitely won't be able to trigger such a unique Dragon Claw Chi. There's no mistaking it. This Chi contains a faint trace of ancient devil essence Chi. There's also a trace of ancient demon spiritual power in this essence Chi. It's exactly the unique Chi of my Chua Dragon clan. The progenitor of my clan, Chua Dragon, was born from the hybrid of an ancient demon and an ancient devil. Even though our descendants could no longer advance to the level of an ancient demon or an ancient devil, we managed to retain this unique Chi. This Chi isn't something that the cultivators in the cultivation world can imitate. The so-called excuse of using the spiritual equipment must be just your disguise, isn't it? I understand. I understand. The one-eyed elderly man analyzed with a serious expression. That's why I said that I'm originally an ancient devil and ancient demon cultivator. That's why I can use the Chua Dragon Claw to release a trace of Chi that is similar to the Chua Dragon. Ning Fan, I understand. I understand. I understand your intention to hide your identity very well. To be honest, I'm not a Chua Dragon. I'm a lizard. A lizard that has grown into the form of a dragon. No, you're the real Chua Dragon. Besides, you still have the unique natural Chi of us Chua Dragons. It's the proof of our clan's love for nature. That's why I said that I'm an ancient divine spirit that symbolizes the creator of nature. You've really misunderstood me. Forget it. I'm too lazy to explain. Ning Fan still had some important matters to attend to in this spatial flame mountain. Naturally, he was too lazy to continue wasting time with this one-eyed Chua Dragon. However, since the other party no longer intended to stop him from advancing, he continued on his way. Hold on. Little friend, please wait. As a senior of the same clan, I haven't done my duty as a host yet. The direction you're heading to is the Spatial Flame Corpse mountain range. Very good. I happen to have some old scores to settle with that Spatial Flame Death Emperor. Come, let's go together. You must have lost a part of your body to the Void Flame Death Emperor. I've only lost one of my eyes. You actually lost all of your body parts and only have your left claw left. Pitiful. You're really the most pitiful Chua Dragon in the world. So, I'm not a Chua Dragon who was hunted by someone and only has my left claw left. Instead, I'm a cultivator who is wearing the left claw of a Chua Dragon. Ning Fan felt a slight headache. Initially, he planned to go to the Spatial Flame Corpse mountain range alone. However, he did not expect to have such a troublesome old man who was traveling with him. This old man with a low IQ actually thought that he was a fellow Chua Dragon. Moreover, he actually followed him all the way to the Corpse mountain range. Speaking of which, it was strange. When Ning Fan was traveling in the Triple Flames territory, he would often be attacked by some immortal emperor's territories when he passed by them. However, with this strange old man following him, there were no longer any devil beings who attacked him. Don't think that I'm just a sixth tribulation cultivator. If I activate the innate bloodline of my clan, I can kill those who are at a higher level than me. Even the dead emperor would have to be wary of me. Ordinary immortal emperor's devil beings would be even more fearful of me. Don't worry. I'll accompany you to the Corpse Mountain Range. I'll certainly protect you until you return safely. So, this old man was worried that he would die in the Corpse Mountain Range. That's why he lied about going there to settle old scores with me? However, it's also a great fortune that you chose to go to the Corpse Mountain Range at this moment. I heard that the dead emperor had just left the Corpse Mountain Range due to some unforeseen circumstances. Now, the ones who are guarding the Corpse Mountain Range are Stone Lord and Wood Lord. Those two old men aren't as strong as the dead emperor. Our trip to the Corpse Mountain Range will undoubtedly be much safer. The dead emperor isn't here? That's indeed good news. At least I don't have to fight the flame ancestor who possessed the dead emperor's body. He's one of the 5 venerated beings of the Great Inferiority. I heard that the dead emperor went out to capture a devil-faced maniac who annihilated the entire He clan. What a grand scheme. What a fierce personality. I like it. I've long found the group of little things in the He clan an eyesore. What's the use of scheming against the medicine slaves all day long? In the end, they were still killed by someone. Speaking of which, little friend, you're also dressed in a devil-faced, silver-haired manner. You look very similar to that maniac in the rumors. Coincidence? It must be a coincidence. The dead emperor was looking for someone everywhere. How could I meet him so coincidentally? Old master, there's really such a coincidence in this world. Sigh, you really don't like to talk much? You're the same as many of your fellow brethren. Boring, really boring. That's right. I haven't asked, little friend, why are you heading to the Corpse Mountain Range? I'm looking for something. What thing? This old man loves to hunt for treasures the most. People call me the Tri-Flames #1 Origin Heaven Master. That's me. You haven't heard of this title before, but have you heard of this old man's name? Long Sanchue. When this old man first took human form, I paid a dragon scale to ask a Tri-Flame scholar to name me. You haven't heard of it? What a stubborn fellow. You don't want to admit that you've heard of me, Long Sanchue, for a long time. Forget it, tell me what you're looking for. I'll see if I can provide you with some information. I'm looking for a sacrificial artifact. According to some information I have, the sacrificial artifact I'm looking for is in the Skyfire Corpse Mountain Range. If it's about the sacrificial artifact, you've asked the right person. This old man knows the layout of the sacrificial artifact inside the Corpse Mountain Range like the back of my hand. However, my fellow compatriot, I heard that the sacrificial artifact cannot be touched recklessly. Otherwise, it will trigger a catastrophe. Of course, this old man has only heard about the exact catastrophe. I've never seen it with my own eyes. It's said that those who have witnessed the catastrophe are all dead. The cause of death is Madame Whitebones in the Corpse Mountain Range. Madame Whitebones? Finally, there's something that interests you. This old man loves telling stories the most in his life. People call me the Tri-Flames #1 storyteller. Let this old man tell you about the various legends of Madame Whitebones. It's said that Madame Whitebones. Then, it's the 166th legend. The 681st legend. The 1142nd legend? Don't tell me anymore. We've arrived. A few days later, Ning Fan arrived at the border of the Corpse Mountain Range with a relieved expression. Ning Fan felt a headache when he saw how talkative this old man was. If it wasn't because this old man claimed that he knew the Corpse Mountain Range like the back of his hand and that it might be helpful to him on this trip, Ning Fan would have probably activated the Black Immortal Cloud to get rid of this annoying old man. The Corpse Mountain Range was the biggest forbidden area of the Sky Flame sect. According to the legends, there was a huge ferocious creature in the Corpse Mountain Range. That ferocious creature was called Madame Whitebones. Only a few people among the 3 Flames Immortal Emperors knew that the so-called Madame Whitebones had another terrifying identity. The #1 supreme being of the 3 Flames Immortal Emperors who was in deep slumber. Most of the titles of Long Sanchue were just boasting. However, Madame Whitebone's title of number 1 was well-deserved. She was the strongest existence that had been proven by the blood of countless experts of the Three Flames immortal emperors. As for the sacrificial artifact that Ning Fan was looking for, it seemed to be in the depths of the Corpse Mountain Range. When Ning Fan and Long Sanchue arrived at the Corpse Mountain Range, which was currently under the highest security, immediately sensed their intrusion. Countless armored soldiers began to rush towards the place. Moreover, there were some fire beacons and smoke that rose into the sky. Oh, the dead emperor has only been away for a few days and there are already people who are reckless enough to barge into the Corpse Mountain Range? How many groups of people have come today? In a palace at the border of the Corpse Mountain Range, Great Emperor Thousand Hands of the Wood Lord snorted disdainfully. Do you want me to do it, or do you want to do it? Anyway, they are just a bunch of trash who can't even break the barrier of the mountain range. I won't do it. Thank you for your trouble, Stone Lord. It's just a small matter. It seems like there are 2 Eternal Era experts and one of them is an immortal emperor. My Spirit Mountain Flame Seal is in need of the flesh and blood of such experts to refine it. Chi the Stone Lord's body swayed and turned into a ray of brown flame. He shot out from the palace and went straight to the place where the smoke was the strongest. However, when he arrived at the place, he could no longer see Ning Fan and Long Sanchue. There was only the barrier which was filled with chaotic energy and hundreds of holes. Impossible! The barrier of the mountain range, which is strong enough to defend against the invasion of a 7 Tribulation Immortal Emperor, has actually been successfully invaded by 2 unknown Eternal Era experts in such a short period of time. The Stone Lord was shocked. Even he who was an 8 Tribulation Immortal Emperor would not be able to break the barrier in a short period of time. Those who are not afraid of death, follow me into the Corpse Mountain Range. The person who takes the head of the intruders will be rewarded with 10 9 Revolutions Emperor pills. Yes. Immediately, the roars of nearly 1,000 true immortal realm guards filled the sky. Chapter 1073. Unfortunately, it was not easy to find the whereabouts of the 2 intruders in the vast mountain range where there were countless forks and dangers lurking in every 10 steps. Stone Master looked as if he had a well-thought-out plan. He brought thousands of men and followed closely behind Ning Fan and Long San into the Corpse Mountain Range. However, after chasing for a distance of a few mountains, they completely lost track of Ning Fan and Long San. An imposing and majestic pursuit had actually returned empty-handed. With Long Sanchue leading the way, Ning Fan did not have to spend too much effort to shake off the pursuit of Stone Master and the others. Long Sanchue was very familiar with the topography of the Corpse Mountain Range. With him leading the way, Ning Fan was able to avoid many mazes, forks, and the territories of fierce beasts, reducing the time spent on the journey and allowing them to advance quickly. Although it was said to be fast, it was only in comparison to the difficulty of walking in the Corpse Mountain Range for ordinary people. Even with Long Sanchue as a guide, it was impossible for Ning Fan to walk as if he was flying in this mountain range. His speed was enough to shake off Stone Master and the others. Within the mountain range, ancient trees towered into the sky. Those ancient trees were boundless. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of years had passed since they died. The thinnest one would require 100 people to hug it, while the thicker ones would occupy an area of a few mu. The growth of the ancient trees was in accordance with the rules. Between the gaps of the trees, there were many forks. Each of the forks was in the shape of a dragon. Countless forks were connected to each other as if thousands of dragons were entrenched there. Ordinary people might not be able to feel it, but Ning Fan, who had cultivated the secret word, force, could feel a powerful aura rushing towards him the moment he saw the layout of this place. Moreover, he could feel a trace of extreme danger from this complicated geographical layout. His hair stood on end uncontrollably. His intuition would never be wrong. This Corpse Mountain Range was a land of great danger. Every blade of grass and tree in the mountain range seemed ordinary, but they could not be touched casually. Ning Fan's eyes were extremely solemn. Just now, he accidentally touched an ancient tree in this place, which immediately triggered a slight change in the grand momentum of this place. Then, countless gray sword silks as thin as a woman's hair burst out from the ancient tree. The power it exuded directly blasted Ning Fan's and Long Sanshui away. Fortunately, Ning Fan managed to activate the Dharma image of the god-destroying giant in time. In an instant, he transformed into the complete form of the god-destroying giant. Even though he was sent flying by the gray sword thread, he was not injured at all. Long Sanshui, on the other hand, was much more miserable. Even though he had activated his black dragon scales at the critical moment to defend himself, he was still beaten to the point of vomiting blood and suffering some injuries. What was interesting was that Long Sanshui did not forget his sense of responsibility as a senior of Feng Long and wholeheartedly wanted to protect Ning Fan. He spread his massive black dragon wings and stood in front of Ning Fan. While wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, he turned around and gave Ning Fan a thumbs up. His white teeth shone brightly, making him look like he was too hot-blooded. "Little friend, be careful. Don't touch any of the plants here. Quickly come under my dragon wings and let me protect you. Don't be afraid and don't panic. As long as this old man is here." When he turned his head, what he saw was Ning Fan, who had dispersed the god-exterminating giant and was unscathed. The gray sword thread dissipated after one strike. Suddenly, a few crows flew past the ancient forest. Awkward. Apart from the awkward beginning, Long Sanshui, who was acting like a senior, would never have thought that even a sixth tribulation immortal emperor like him would be injured by the sword thread while Ning Fan was unscathed. Ning Fan suddenly felt that it was a little funny. This Long Sanshui seemed to be a supreme being. His brain seemed to be a little dull. Although cultivators with beast bodies would more or less have a one-track mind, this old man's one-track mind seemed to have exceeded the bottom line of ordinary people. After talking to him for a long time, you would realize that this person was purely an idiot. However, Ning Fan was more than willing to travel with this kind of idiot compared to those shrewd old monsters. At least he did not have to worry about the other party stabbing him in the back. With his ability to communicate with all living things, he could easily find out the following information. He was sure that Long Sanshui's hot-blooded stupidity was not an act. Long Sanshui's clothes, I am clothes. Master is an idiot. He is an idiot. Long Sanshui's shoes, I am shoes. I'm shoes. Master is an idiot. He is an idiot. Long Sanshui's eyesores, I am eyesores. I am eyesores. Master is an idiot. He is an idiot. Long Sanjis. In short, this was a somewhat pitiful immortal Emperor Hui Long. Even the parts of his body were laughing at him for being an idiot. If it wasn't for such a convenient information-gathering ability, Ning Fan would never trust Long Sanshui, who he had only met once. Ning Fan raised his hand and threw a bottle of pills to Long Sanshui, breaking the awkward atmosphere. Long Sanshui caught the pill and scanned it with his spirit sense. His expression was instantly shocked and tears filled his eyes. 9 Transformations Emperor Pill. Little friend is really forthright to actually casually gift such a high-level healing medicinal pill. I am really touched. Quickly consume it and heal your injuries. I will protect you. In any case, it was me who carelessly touched the ancient trees here. That was why I triggered the sword silk attack and caused you to be injured. It is only natural for me to compensate you with some pills. Ning Fan said indifferently. Words cannot express my gratitude. It is fate that brought us together. From today onwards, I will recognize you as my friend. I will go through water and tread on fire. Little friend, just one word and I will not refuse. Long Sanshui laughed. He sat cross-legged on the ground and consumed the pill to refine it. His hearty laughter suddenly gave Ning Fan an indescribable sense of familiarity. It was familiar yet strange. It would take some time to refine the medicinal power and heal his injuries. At first, Long Sanshui was concentrating on healing his injuries. Later on, he became bored and began to find topics to chat with Ning Fan. Unlike Long Sanshui, who was talkative, Ning Fan was not a talkative person. In Long Sanshui's eyes, he was completely the type of person who could not say anything and had an extremely boring character. In the end, Long Sanchue gave up on finding topics to chat with Ning Fan. He licked his lips and asked, "Do you have wine?" It was his addiction to wine. "You are an immortal emperor but you don't have your own spiritual wine?" Ning Fan was speechless. "Don't be so calculative about such a small matter. I won't hide it from little friend. I have already finished my own wine. It's not easy to meet a fellow countryman, so you came with me just to cheat some wine?" Ning Fan felt a headache. "You can't say that. It's not that I have to drink wine. It's just that I feel like old friends at first sight. It's like it's not the first day we met. That's why I want to have a drink with you. Cultivators of our generation have the same interests. If I can't sit in a dangerous building and drink a pot of real good wine, it will be a pity." Ning Fan became silent. Like old friends at first sight? He seemed to have a strange feeling. He felt that he was familiar with Long Sanchue yet strange. Moreover, Long Sanchue's words gave him a sense of familiarity. It was as if he had heard similar words somewhere before. I remember now, that year he changed his name to Liu Bei and accepted the request of Luo Yun demon sealer Lu Daochen to rescue a general of the ancient heavenly court, Lu Wu. Before Lu Wu disappeared, he seemed to have said something similar. "Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to reincarnate again. Thank you. It's a promise and a promise. That's all. Senior doesn't need to thank me. If I send you off without wine, wouldn't it be a pity?" "What a good way to send you off. Everyone is afraid of death and samsara. However, you compared death to a long journey. I can't compare to your heroic spirit. I'll drink this wine. If we're fated to meet again in my next life, I'll definitely sit in a dangerous building and drink a pot of real good wine with you. I'll sit in a dangerous building and drink a pot of real good wine with you." All of a sudden, Ning Fan felt an impact on his soul. He sensed it and looked at Long Sanchue. As he did, his eyes were filled with shock. It was as if he had confirmed something. However, there was something unexplainable and unimaginable in it. This Long Sanchue, who was a little stupid, a little righteous, and a little heroic, seemed to be Lu Wu, who he had a drinking date with before. If he carefully identified their qi, he would find that their qi was very different due to the changes of samsara. However, within the difference, there was a trace of unchanging nature that could not be erased even by samsara. Could this Long Sanchue actually be Lu Wu's reincarnation? Could it be that the so-called, like old friends at first sight, was just a drinking date in the past? However, there was something that couldn't be explained. How many years had it been since Lu Wu re-entered samsara? Judging from Long Sanchue's bone age, he was obviously a great sovereign who had lived since the ancient times. It was impossible for him to be a reincarnation. Then was the qi that was similar to Lu Wu's just an illusion? Or could it be that samsara was not something that could be understood by normal time logic? Ning Fan's eyes flashed with green light. He was at a loss. His understanding of samsara was also tumbling in his mind. There were two voices in his mind arguing whether Long Sanchue was Lu Wu or not. One of them firmly believed that his feeling was not wrong while the other kept denying this argument with time logic. After a long, long time, only then did Ning Fan's expression return to normal. He let out a long sigh. He couldn't figure it out. He couldn't see through it. Reincarnation was actually such an incomprehensible thing. If he was in it and tried to understand it with his own time logic, it seemed very difficult to see the truth. Since he couldn't figure it out, Ning Fan stopped thinking about it. He patted his storage pouch and took out 2 jars of spiritual wine. He tossed one to Long Sanchue and opened the mud seal. He then gulped down the wine. It was as if he wanted to drink all the puzzles in his mind and throw them to the back of his mind. Long Sanchue was startled at first, then he burst into laughter. He also opened the mud seal and drank to his heart's content. After drinking, the two of them no longer talked. Long Sanchue quickly finished refining the medicinal power and returned to his peak state. However, there were still some changes. Previously, Long Sanchue and Ning Fan traveled together out of kindness to protect the younger generation. Ning Fan, on the other hand, just wanted to use Long Sanchue's understanding of Corpse Mountain Range. But now, it was different. There seemed to be some friendship between the two of them. It was as if they had been accumulating for many years. It was as if this drinking session was Ning Fan's first time but not Long Sanchue's first. Ning Fan's eyes slightly narrowed. He was sure of one thing. Long Sanchue's physical body was quite powerful. His injuries could recover very quickly. Even without the pills he gave him, Long Sanchue could still recover in a very short period of time. Hey, I've been on the road for so many days and I actually didn't ask for little friend's name. May I know little friend's name? You can call me Ning Fan or Liu Bei. Liu Bei? Where have I heard this name before? Sure enough, little brother Ning gave me a feeling of familiarity at first sight. Huh? Familiarity at first sight, huh? Samsara is like a stranger, perhaps it is also like a reunion, Ning Fan murmured to himself. What he said made Long Sanchue's eyes go blank. He only felt that Ning Fan's words were so profound that it had exceeded his understanding. Now, it seemed like he had underestimated this junior from the beginning. Little brother Ning's defensive method is truly heaven-defying. You can actually block the attack of the Saint's sword formation with just your immortal venerable cultivation. Truly amazing. I originally wanted to save you, but I didn't expect that I would be helped by you instead. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed. Long Sanchue laughed loudly. If I didn't have a certain method, I wouldn't have dared to come here. As for the Saint's sword formation. So that's how it is. No wonder the sword threads just now had such terrifying power. It made me instantly have the premonition to activate my strongest defense. It turns out that the grand pattern of this place has actually formed a Saint's absolute killing sword formation. That's why it's so dangerous. Ning Fan's expression did not show it, but his heart was slightly shocked. No wonder he couldn't see the trajectory of the grand pattern of this place even with his attainments in the Force secret art. This place is really not a good place. Rumor has it that when the great humble sacred ancestor was still alive, he once used the mountain pattern as a sword and heaven and earth as a sheath to lay down a grand killing sword formation. After his death, this place became the sleeping place of Madame Whitebones for some unknown reason. Even though I'm the first among the three flames, by Shaoxing, I don't know much about the secrets within. In short, you and I must be careful when we walk in this forest. Just don't disturb the grand pattern of this place. As for the sacrificial tool that you're looking for, that kind of thing is the key to the grand pattern of this place. If it's disturbed, forget it. We're acquaintances. If there's a sudden change in the grand pattern, I'll certainly lend you a hand. As soon as he finished speaking, Long Sanchue, who had fully recovered from his injuries, once again led Ning Fan through the forked paths of the ancient trees which were filled with dangerous qi. Occasionally, the qi of powerful ancient creatures could be felt from both sides of the path. The weakest of them was at the immortal venerable realm. There were also many immortal emperors. The Three Flames was the most dangerous place in the Supreme Dan Holy region. The Corpse Mountain Range was the most dangerous place in the Three Flames. Ning Fan didn't find it strange that there were so many powerful qi lying dormant. He also didn't deliberately investigate what kind of species those qi belonged to. If he didn't take the initiative to investigate those ancient creatures, it seemed like he wouldn't be attacked. At the place where the two mountain ranges were connected, there would usually be a formation barrier to prevent outsiders from invading the interior of the mountain range. Long Sanchue, who claimed to be the first original heavenly master of the Three Flames, only had an average attainment in the Tao of formations. It was extremely strenuous for him to break these formations. Fortunately, Ning Fan would always search for the location of the Yin formation and use a method that Long Sanchue couldn't understand to easily disrupt the power of the formation. All kinds of strange things about Ning Fan constantly refreshed Long Sanchue's understanding. Gradually, no matter how stupid Long Sanchue was, he realized that Ning Fan was the ghost masked cultivator who annihilated the He clan and killed Hezu. Of course, he didn't realize that Ning Fan wasn't the same kind as Chua Long. While advancing, Ning Fan memorized the layout of the formation in this place. Gradually, the transformation of the entire Corpse Mountain range became clearer in his mind. There were more than 1,000 mountain peaks in the Corpse Mountain range. However, most of them were just illusions of the formation. There were only 305 mountain peaks that were in the real position. The arrangement of the mountain peaks was even more strange. If one didn't have the ability to distinguish the real from the fake, he definitely wouldn't be able to see it. The 305 mountain peaks stood on the ground. If one looked down from the sky, they would see a giant with the mountain as its bones, stretching its limbs and sleeping on the ground. 305 bones. It wasn't the number of bones of an adult, but it roughly matched the number of bones of an infant. The layout of this place gives me an extremely uncomfortable feeling. It's not as simple as a sense of danger. It's a pure dislike. The route we're taking seems to be entering from the foot of the sleeping infant layout and heading towards the head. There seems to be an extremely powerful existence sealed at the head of the sleeping infant layout. That kind of power seems to be even scarier than Supreme Being Nyogue. Could it be the legendary strongest person among the 5 venerated beings of Debay? Madame White Bones? In the past, I learned the heaven-breaking sword finger from Little Dugu. That level of Sword Dao inheritance seems to resonate with some kind of Sword Dao power in this place. Speaking of which, the Heaven Capital Emperor schemed against me that day. He wanted to trick me into coming to the most dangerous place of the Sky Flame to learn some kind of supreme Sword Dao. Could it be that the place that the Heaven Capital Emperor schemed against is this Corpse Mountain range? If that's the case, it's really a coincidence. While advancing slowly, Ning Fan's mind was racing. 2 days later, he finally arrived at the head of the sleeping infant layout under Long San Chue's free guidance. The first thing he saw was a huge door of heaven wasteland above a dense forest. The Great Gate of Infinite Wasteland is the path that immortal Emperor Zido left for the descendants of immortal cultivator Zido. There were also rumors in the outside world that there was an infinite desolate stone gate inside the extreme Dan sacred region. Unexpectedly, it was actually true. Not to mention that the stone gate is located in the Corpse Mountain range, which is the most dangerous of the Tri-Flames. I was still wondering why the Demon Clan and Demon Clan didn't covet this stone gate, but the one in the wilderness instead of this stone gate. So that's how it is. It must be because the true foundation of the Supreme Dan sacred region is too strong, and the location of this stone gate is too tricky. With the 4 heavens of the illusionary world and the foundation of the demon race, the success rate of attacking this stone door under the eyes of the 5 venerables of Debay was close to 0. Therefore, on the surface, it seems that the wilderness is easier to obtain. Strange. This stone gate of infinite wasteland is calling me. If it was the previous Ning Fan, he would not be able to hear such a call. But now, he was a deity with a crippled body, and he was a deity who had awakened the ability to communicate with all things. He could hear the voice of the stone gate of infinite wasteland, but the others could not. It's the response of the key. It's in your hands. I can't be wrong. Disciple of ancient chaos, do you want to open me and walk into the ancient mirror of infinite wasteland through me and into the true world? It was the gentle call of the stone gate of infinite wasteland. Then, Ning Fan felt that there seemed to be some kind of power behind the last door of the scripture hiding tower that ancient chaos gave him. It was slowly opening the door that he could not open no matter what. The voice that claimed that, "The Lord doesn't recognize me. I'm your key but you've forgotten about me. The Lord doesn't recognize me." With a loud bang, the door of the scripture hiding tower opened. Then, a ray of gray light flew out from the scripture hiding tower in the profound Een world. Ning Fan summoned it and took it out from the tower, landing on his palm. It was a teardrop. It was an illusory key that was formed by the gray tear. I'm your key. I'm your key to open the stone gate of infinite wasteland and return to the true world. That was the voice of the gray tear. Open me with the key. Then, you will have the right to return to the true world and return to your butterfly's hometown. Even if it's to lead the descendants of Zido immortal cultivators back to the true world, it's all up to you. It was the call of the gigantic gate of infinite wasteland again. Ning Fan had never expected that such a situation would happen after he came to the Corpse Mountain range. Even with his temperament, he could not help but feel a little lost at this moment. The key and the stone gate of infinite wasteland were all too sudden. He needed to think about them properly. Especially the key. Due to the obstruction of the samsara, Ning Fan could not hear the sound of the key clearly. However, when he touched the gray tier key at such a close distance, he clearly felt a sense of familiarity from it. The chi within the key was clearly the same as the sword ancestors. I see. No wonder this key kept telling me that the Lord doesn't recognize me. That's right. In the fourth samsara void tribulation, Ning Fan saw some karma. He was originally a butterfly that reincarnated in the butterfly's hometown. It was the sword ancestor who brought him out of the butterfly's hometown and into the human world. The sword ancestor must know him. However, because he had reincarnated in the past, he had long forgotten about the encounter when he was a butterfly. Ring-ringed at the gray tier key in Ning Fan's hand suddenly shone and vibrated. At the same time, the incessant sounds of chains colliding resounded from one of the gray mountain peaks not far away. To be more precise, the sound came from a huge karst cave on the gray mountain peak. Ning Fan frowned deeply. From that karst cave, Ning Fan sensed a terrifying aura force that was comparable to that of an ancient great cultivator. That aura force was ethereal. It was sometimes very close and sometimes extremely far away, making it difficult for others to accurately sense the chi state of that ancient great cultivator. However, since an ancient great cultivator suddenly appeared in this place, it was most likely the Madam Whitebones who was known as the #1 supreme being of the great infernal realm. The Madam Whitebones in the karst cave did not seem to be awake. Instead, she seemed to be in a deep sleep. If one were to listen carefully, they would hear the sound of the wind between heaven and earth. It was so even that it sounded like the breathing of a lady when she was sleeping soundly. There was no doubt that it was the breathing of the Madam Whitebones. The sacrificial artifact of Jioli that I'm looking for seems to be in that karst cave. Ning Fan said as if he was facing a formidable enemy. The rumored Madam Whitebones seems to be in a deep sleep in that karst cave. Hiss. What a terrifying chi. It's even scarier than what I imagined. If I'm not careful, I'll definitely die. There's no other way. Brother Ning, just wait here. I'll go into that cave and see if there's the sacrificial artifact you're looking for. With your cultivation base, you shouldn't take the risk. Long Sanchue's teeth began to chatter. It was his body that was instinctively afraid of the dangers in the karst cave. It was not because he was afraid. He could sense the terror of the Madam Whitebones in the karst cave. However, if he had to take the risk, he was willing to take the risk for Ning Fan. There's no need. I'm already very grateful to Senior for bringing me all the way here. Naturally, I won't let Senior take the risk for me. I didn't expect the chi of this Madam Whitebones to be comparable to an ancient great cultivator. It seems like this sacrificial artifact of Jioli is really not something that can be easily obtained. If there's any mistake during this trip, not only will I die here, but I might also drag Senior down with me. How about this? Senior should leave now. I'll wait for Senior to leave the Corpse Mountain Range before entering this cave. At that time, even if some unforeseen events happen, I won't drag Senior down with me. Ning Fan said expressionlessly. But I'm the one who brought you here. How can I leave you alone? Don't worry, Senior. If I'm alone, it'll be easier for me to escape. Ha! Are you saying that I, a dignified 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperor, am a burden to a junior immortal venerable like you? Long Sanchue laughed heartily, but his stubborn attitude showed that he would not leave in advance no matter what. Ning Fan suddenly felt a headache. Having such a loyal friend sometimes made him feel helpless. Forget it. If the situation is so serious that I have no choice but to escape, I'll risk everything and leave with Long Sanchue. It doesn't matter if it's Lu Wu or Long Sanchue. Quickly go and get the sacrificial artifact that you want. Because of my delay in recuperating, it seems like the Stone Lord's people are about to catch up to this place. When you go to find the artifact, I'll be waiting outside to block the Stone Lord's people for you. Long Sanchue's one eye suddenly narrowed. There were many 3-flame realm cultivators approaching from the dense forest. Immediately, he waved his hand and sent out a gust of wind, sending Ning Fan to the entrance of the karst cave. Then he stood in front of the entrance with his hands clasped behind his back. He was already prepared to fight against those pursuers. Ning Fan did not say anything else. He cupped his fists towards Long Sanchue from afar and entered the karst cave in a flash. The deeper he went into the cave, the more he could feel the massive aura force that felt like it was separated by an entire cycle of reincarnation. About a few hundred steps into the cave, a gray sword light with a chaotic luster suddenly slashed out from an empty scabbard hanging on the stone wall of the cave. Chapter 1074. As soon as the gray sword light slashed out, it was extremely terrifying. The massive sword pressure instantly turned into a strong gust of wind, sweeping towards the entrance of the cave. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. Without saying a word, he directly activated the strongest form of the god-destroying giant in this huge cave. The 100 zhang tall giant of golden flames rushed towards the chaotic sword light with its giant shield. The sword light that seemed to be able to destroy everything penetrated through the cave and landed on the god-destroying giant shield. Ning Fan did not dare to directly block the sword light with his giant body. The sword light gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. It gave him a disdainful aura force that seemed as if there was nothing in the 9 mountains and 8 seas. If he directly uses his giant golden body to block the sword light, Ning Fan had an intuition that his golden body would be directly split apart by the sword light and he himself would be killed by it. Any gray sword light in this place had the terrifying power of enlightened being Bai Lu's Joss flame sword in the past. However, if it's the god-destroying shield which was a heaven-opening treasure, it would not be able to destroy the shield no matter how strong the sword light was. Ning Fan still had this bit of confidence. Rumble. The god-destroying shield was a heaven-opening treasure. Even if it was not complete, it still had its toughness. Even with the strength of the gray sword light, it could not destroy the shield. However, the impact of the sword pressure still forced the god-destroying giant to retreat continuously. The golden flames around its body flickered as if they would be extinguished by the sword pressure at any time. Ning Fan, who was hiding inside the body of the god-destroying giant, could not ignore the sword pressure either. Every part of his body was aching as if it was going to be crushed by the sword pressure. All he could do was to keep retreating. He could not move forward against the sword light. The sacrificial tool of Jiuchu is hidden in this cave. If I give up now, I can certainly escape unscathed. However, what about Master Luangu? Ning Fan's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood essence and performed a hand seal with all 10 of his fingers. The blood essence immediately entered the giant's body, causing the golden flames which were flickering to burn brightly again. So what if this sword light is strong? In front of my heaven-opening treasure, it has to submit. Bang! The incomparably sharp gray sword light was forcefully knocked away by the giant along with a loud bang. The attack of this sword light is indeed extremely strong. However, it's not strong enough and it's getting weaker and weaker. It gives me a chance to knock it away head-on. That sword light was shot out from the scabbard on the wall. A single scabbard seems to only have the power for one attack. However, there seemed to be a lot of scabbards in the cave. Crack as Ning Fan broke through the sword light, the scabbard that released the sword light broke into pieces. Ning Fan untied the god-destroying giant and picked up the broken scabbard to examine it. He felt that this kind of scabbard looked somewhat familiar. It was very similar to the sword sheath he had used to slash Moksha Sovereign at the beginning of his cultivation. It was also very similar to the sword sheaths of the sword ancestors that he had seen at the bottom of the Sword World's Sword Inquisition Lake. It seemed to be the scabbard that to the scabbard. And the scabbard. Sword ancestor's aura. After carefully sensing it, he could sense the unique chi of the sword ancestor from the sheath. His eyes flickered as if he had a guess, but he didn't say anything more. Instead, he swallowed some pills and sat down cross-legged to refine them, recovering the rapidly consumed magic power in his body. His eyes flickered as if he had a guess. However, he did not say anything. Instead, he consumed some pills and sat cross-legged to refine them, recovering the magic power in his body that was rapidly consumed. Otherwise, if he encounters such a sword light again, his defense would not last long and he would certainly be killed by the sword light. After 100 breaths, Ning Fan exhaled a mouthful of turbid chi and moved forward again. After walking for another few hundred steps, Ning Fan encountered the second scabbard on the wall and was attacked by the sword light of the same scabbard. Without a choice, Ning Fan could only use his blood essence to block the sword light with the God-exterminating shield. Then he replenished his magic power and moved deeper into the cave. After that, it was the third, the fourth and the 19th scabbard. According to Ning Fan's estimation, it had been 8 hours since he entered the cave. Long Sanchue, who was outside, should still be helping him fend off the pursuers of Stone Lord. Judging from the fact that there were no pursuers inside the cave, Long Sanchue might still be in a stalemate with them, suppressing the dizziness and weakness caused by the excessive loss of blood essence. Ning Fan continued to move deeper into the cave. According to Ning Fan's intuition, he was not moving in a straight line in the cave. Instead, he was moving in circles. After going round and round, he finally approached the center of the circle. Under the continuous activation of the secret force, Ning Fan gradually gained some understanding of the layout of the cave and had some speculations. The 24th scabbard, the 36th scabbard, the 48th scabbard. When Ning Fan finally blocked the 49th scabbard, there were no more sword scabbards blocking his path. Ning Fan muttered to himself. Sure enough, he used his spirit sense to check the path he came from. Just as he expected, the 49 sword scabbards that he destroyed along the way were reforming under the circulation of the formation power of this place. Then, they reappeared on the wall one after another. Those sword scabbards seemed to be able to be used repeatedly. In other words, if he were to go back and leave the cave, he would have to resist another round of 49 sword light slashes. If the sword scabbard could be regenerated, he wouldn't be able to determine whether the pursuers of Stone Lord were still being held back by Long Sanchue or if they had already dealt with Long Sanchue but didn't dare to enter the cave because of the terror of the sword scabbard. After all, Long Sanchue was just a 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperor while Stone Lord was an 8th Tribulation Immortal Emperor with a lot of helpers. I must solve this matter as soon as possible and help Long San. Ning Fan's expression darkened slightly. He increased his speed and continued to move deeper into the cave. It had been a whole day since he entered the cave. When he reached such a depth, there were stalactites hanging upside down on the rock layer of the cave and water droplets were constantly dripping from them. The sound of water droplets and the clanking of chains that came from the depths of the cave gave Ning Fan the illusion that he was having a dream again. This feeling was very familiar, very familiar. It was very similar to the sound of water droplets and the clanking of chains that he heard when he tried to open his eyes with the power of extreme yang. Little Dai Ho, stop sleeping. Wake up quickly. Little Dai Ho, stop sleeping. Stop sleeping. If you continue to sleep, you won't be able to catch up with the moon that appears once every 10 years in the ancient desolate mountain. Ning Fan recalled the words that he heard when he was in the power of extreme yang. Those words, the sound of water droplets and the clanking of chains had always been a mystery in his heart. He wanted to unravel it and find out the truth. Since he started cultivating, he already had an understanding of the reincarnation cycle of his past and present lives. His past life originated from the hometown of the butterfly. He was brought to the human world by the sword ancestor, and then entered the illusory world to reincarnate. Then, he flew to the ancient heavenly court and sacrificed himself to destroy the eye of the immortal emperor Zhang Qing. After countless lifetimes, he finally reincarnated as a human. This was the history of his past and present lives, but there were still many mysteries in this history that he could not see clearly. Perhaps the so-called Madam of Bones is actually... Ning Fan's heart suddenly calmed down. His intuition told him that as long as he made it here and passed through the obstruction of the 49 scabbards, there wouldn't be too much danger ahead. Or maybe it wasn't intuition, but a speculation. After walking for an unknown amount of time, an incomparably spacious space suddenly appeared at the end of the tunnel ahead. On the stone ground, there were ancient swords covered in blood and rust. Some were complete, some were broken, and some had lost their spirituality. There were also swords that still had some power left. There were ancient fiend god weapons as well as ordinary magic treasures. There were swords that were stained with the blood of a first-step cultivator as well as immortal emperor swords. There were even swords that were stained with the blood of saints. Unfortunately, those swords were too old and were no longer useful. The massive chi of the swords kept attacking Ning Fan, but it could not stop him from moving forward. Ning Fan stepped on the ruins of the swords and advanced forward. After walking for an unknown period of time, there were no more broken swords in front of him. He avoided the stalagmites that occasionally blocked his way and continued forward. Then, he saw a 9-story iron tower that was piled up with countless sword remains. There were more than 1,000 ancient sacrificial tools placed in the 64 directions around the iron tower. Each of those sacrificial tools came from different cultivation clans. Some of them were of high grade and some were low. Ning Fan had seen some of them before, some of them he had heard of, and some of them were unknown to him. Among those sacrificial tools, Ning Fan easily found an innate sacrificial tool that emitted a similar chi to the black cat. The innate sacrificial tool of the 9 Raccoon clan, the 4th clan of the Dao Soul realm, was indeed here. This item was one of the targets that Ning Fan was looking for when he entered the Supreme Pill Sacred region. However, Ning Fan did not immediately go to take the sacrificial tool. Instead, he scanned the surrounding stone walls. There were more than 10,000 sword scabbards hanging on the surrounding walls, giving people goosebumps. These sword scabbards also contained gray sword light. If all of them were to be activated at the same time, it would be enough to kill him hundreds or thousands of times. Ning Fan sucked in a breath of cold air. His eyes, however, were still filled with determination. He continued to observe the layout of this place. Eventually, his eyes fell on the highest floor of the iron tower where a white skeleton was sleeping soundly. The white skeleton was wearing an ancient female outfit. She was leaning on the throne. Her long black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. It did not decay with the passage of time. Instead, it still carried a dark luster like the hair of a living person. It was the skeleton of a woman. The skeleton's limbs were bound by an unknown scarlet golden chain. The chain extended from the top of the iron tower to both sides and was nailed to the stone walls on both sides. The golden chain was covered with talismans. Moreover, it was connected to the power of all the sacrificial tools in this place and resonated with the formation of the saints in the entire Corpse Mountain range. A vast sealing power faintly spread out from the golden chain. Its sealing power was not any weaker than that of a third-step expert. If one were to listen carefully, they would notice that the skeleton of the woman who was obviously unable to breathe was still breathing evenly. She was not dead yet. It seemed like she was just sleeping on the throne. If one were to take a closer look, they would also notice that the ground near the iron tower was covered with a thick layer of crystal dust. Some of it had accumulated on the ground and some of it had accumulated in puddles. Ning Fan held up a handful of the dry dust and examined it. Immediately, his eyes widened in shock. The dust was none other than the corpse ashes left behind by the experts who had perished. Judging from the thick layer of corpse ashes here, countless experts had died within 100 steps of the iron tower. There was no lack of immortal venerables, immortal kings, and even the corpse ashes of immortal emperors. Among the sword intent here, there is the third step perfection intent. Is this the perfection sword intent that Tiandu's emperor wants to comprehend? If I touch the sacrificial tools recklessly, I will most likely be attacked by the tens of thousands of sword scabbards here. Tiandu's emperor actually boasted shamelessly that he would bring me here to comprehend the sword intent here and that he could guarantee my safety. With his strength of a 6th tribulation immortal emperor, he is really daydreaming. It is still unknown whether or not he can sneak into the Corpse Mountain range and come to this place. The so-called guarantee of safety is probably just a lie. The so-called white-bone female corpse is indeed the remains of the sword ancestor. The sword ancestor, the extraordinary woman who has borne countless karma in my path of cultivation. The woman who looks similar to Dugushao but is ultimately different. What a touching sword intent this is. It has a hint of bitterness and also an inextinguishable longing that is deeply hidden in the sword intent. It will never fade. This is not the sword intent of the sword formation that the Southern Alchemy Saints set up here. This is the sword intent of the sword ancestor. The sword ancestor has already become a skeleton, but who is she still thinking about? Ning Fan sighed. He did not act recklessly in this dangerous place. Instead, he cupped his fists and bowed to the 9 floors of the Iron Tower where the sword ancestor's remains were stored. Without the sword ancestor, he probably would not have the chance to leave the butterfly tribe's hometown and step into the mortal world. Without the sword ancestor's sword scabbard, he would probably have died in the hands of Moksha sovereign when he was young and perished together with the 7 apricot city and the old devil. Unknowingly, he had already owed the sword ancestor a lot of karma. A mere bow was certainly not enough to repay him, but it was enough to express his gratitude. This bow that was close to etiquette immediately caused some changes in this place. Clang clang, it was the sound of the golden chains that locked the sword ancestor's remains colliding with each other. Clang clang clang, it was the sound of the shaking of the chains becoming more intense. Drip drip, it was the sound of water dripping from the top of the cave into the water on the ground through the stalactites. Drip drip. At a certain moment, the water on the top of the cave suddenly stopped dripping. Instead, it seemed to have solidified and stopped in midair. All of a sudden, the chains no longer made any sound. Instead, all the sounds were frozen at this moment. At this moment, the sword ancestor's remains that were originally leaning on the throne on the top floor of the Iron Tower suddenly stood up with the support of the handrail. Standing on the Iron Tower, it looked down at Ning Fan, who was not far away from it. Ning Fan's eyes were slightly surprised. Then he narrowed his eyes. Of course, he would not think that the sword ancestor who was only left with a skeleton could not move anymore. He had already known about the many rumors about the Madam of White Bones in the outside world. The sword ancestor could still move around with his skeleton body. Such an existence could no longer be estimated with common sense. Of course, it was unknown how much rationality the sword ancestor still had left. Due to the restraints of the chains, the sword ancestor who had a white skeleton body could not leave the Iron Tower. She could only stand on the roof of the tower in a strange manner, looking down at Ning Fan with her empty eye sockets. She did not have the intention of looking down on him. Instead, there was a kind of indescribable gentleness. The sword ancestor is the person who brought me out of the butterfly's hometown. If she still has consciousness, she might not attack me. However, if she really does attack me, it will be as easy as flipping her hand with the ancient great cultivation realm strength that she has retained. What should I do now? If I touch the sacrificial tool of Jiuli, it will disrupt the structure of this place. Not to mention that I will be killed by the 10,000 swords here. I might even unintentionally release the sword ancestor's remains with terrifying strength. Should I try to communicate with the sword ancestor and see if I can take away the sacrificial tool without harming the harmony between us? If she can't speak, I will use the ability to communicate with her remains. Ning Fan's expression gradually became solemn. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. After thinking for a while, he erased his ghost face and decided to try to communicate with the sword ancestor with his true appearance. Just as he was about to take action, the sword ancestor who was standing on the 9 floors of the Iron Tower spoke first. Little butterfly. The sword ancestor's empty eye sockets were clearly empty. However, at this moment, 2 streams of tears flowed down. They were gray tears. They were the same as the composition of the heaven desolate key in Ning Fan's hand. As soon as the gray tears appeared in the air, they immediately evaporated and disappeared from the samsara, leaving no trace behind. The current sword ancestor obviously did not have flesh and blood. She did not have a delicate face. However, Ning Fan could feel that when the sword ancestor looked at him with tears in her eyes, she was not crying but smiling. An incomparably gentle smile. But what? Why does she have such a gentle smile? It was clearly just a ferocious-looking skeleton. However, it gave Ning Fan a trace of peace in his heart. Was it just because she had brought him out of the butterfly's hometown? Was it because there was some invisible karma between the two of them? Junior Ning Fan greets the sword ancestor. I have something to discuss with you. It's about the sacrificial tool in this place. Seeing that the sword ancestor still had the ability to speak and a certain level of consciousness and memory, Ning Fan cupped his fists and bowed towards the direction of the 9 floors of the Iron Tower. Inwardly, he was calculating what kind of price he would have to pay in order to obtain the 9 raccoon sacrificial tool from the Sword Ancestor. However, the Sword Ancestor did not care about Ning Fan at all. She only cared about the way Ning Fan addressed himself. She muttered to herself bitterly. So it's Ning Fan? So, it's not an I Fan. No wonder I couldn't find him after searching for so long. And if Fan. When he heard this name again and it was from the Sword Ancestor's mouth, Ning Fan could not help but feel a little emotional even with his temperament. Ning Fan still wanted to say something but the Sword Ancestor interrupted him. I don't have much time left. After you appeared, I was destined to die. I know that you must have something important to do by coming here. You always have this kind of personality. I will help you get what you want. However, before that, I have something to tell you. Senior, what advice do you have for me? Feel free to speak your mind. Ning Fan was surprised. He did not expect that the old and immortal Sword Ancestor would actually want to chat with him. After staying silent for a while, he asked, It's not advice. It's not. In the past, I didn't understand why I couldn't find you even after searching for so long. When I finally understand why, I can't coexist in the same world as you. I'm afraid you will never be able to find me in the future. You won't be able to find me in any of the reincarnations. When you finally find me, you might have already missed me. What nonsense is the Sword Ancestor talking about? Ning Fan knitted his brows tightly. He could not understand the Sword Ancestor's words at all. However, he did not know why, but there was a trace of sorrow in the depths of his heart. It was as if countless fine needles were pricking and tearing his heart apart. You can't find me and I can't meet you. If the 2 lines intersect, we will meet each other for the rest of our lives. If the 2 lines are parallel, we will walk together forever and never meet again. Luckily, before I turned into a pile of bones, I have already left my most beautiful smile. I hope that they can enter your parallel line and accompany you with joy. Smile? What smile? Ning Fan was even more confused, but he did not interrupt the Sword Ancestor's words rashly. The morning moon in the ancient desolate mountain takes 10 years to complete. The tide of the defying mortal sea takes 100 years to rise. The mist of the vast expanse Tao takes 1,000 years to recede. The green peaches of the ancient heavenly court take 10,000 years to bloom. The bell orchid of the heavenly desolate ancient realm takes 100,000 years to bloom. As for me, I'm only allowed to have a smile every few million years. I've waited for a very long time. I've left a lot of things for you. I really want to watch the morning moon together, even if it's just 10 years. That was the end of her words. An unexpected change suddenly took place. The Sword Ancestor obviously wanted to say something else, but her voice was muffled. She could no longer make a sound. All she could do was let out a faint sigh. It seems like her time has finally come. The Sword Ancestor's remains that the Tri-Flame Realm cultivators had been trying to kill for countless years but to no avail suddenly emitted a sky-piercing death chi without any warning. There was also an unimaginable power of the great Tao that created circles of samsara ripples on the 9 floors of the Iron Tower, turning the Sword Ancestor's remains into ashes bit by bit. What's going on? I didn't disturb the layout of this place. Why did the Sword Ancestor's remains suddenly turn into ashes? There's actually such a terrifying power of the great Tao that is destroying the Sword Ancestor's remains. This isn't a power that a second-step cultivator can resist. Ning Fan's expression turned gloomy. He did not know what was happening in this place. He did not understand what the Sword Ancestor meant by talking nonsense. However, when he saw the Sword Ancestor's remains disappearing in front of his eyes, he felt a surge of anger for no reason. He did not know where that anger came from and he did not know who it was directed at. However, it made his heart extremely cold. It was so cold that he felt like killing someone. What's going on with this feeling? Even though I don't understand why, it seems like my body's instinct doesn't allow me to watch the Sword Ancestor disappear in front of me. Originally, before he figured out the layout of this place, he would not rashly step 100 zhang into the Iron Tower. However, at this moment, his body involuntarily flew towards the direction of the 9 floors of the Iron Tower. He continuously approached the Iron Tower. 90 zhang. All of a sudden, countless dark swords flew out from the top of the Iron Tower. All of them were burned away by Ning Fan's devil flames. 800 zhang. More sword shadows shot out from the Iron Tower. They were no longer at a level that the devil flames could extinguish. Ning Fan raised his hand and used the 24 devil banners to block them. It was the first innate lower-grade magical treasure he had obtained after killing He Zhu, the 5 poisons banner. 700 zhang. 600 feet. 50 zhang. Black figures wearing black robes embroidered with golden patterns of 10 suns and smile-crying masks flew out of the Iron Tower. The weakest of them were celestial venerables, and there were even many celestial kings and celestial emperors. Naturally, Ning Fan was not arrogant enough to think that he could fight against so many powerful black shadows head-on. He instantly merged with the Black Cat and fully activated his god-destroying giant body. Then he summoned countless magic treasures into the sky. 5 poison banner, spirit gathering sect, 5 elements bottle, treasure searching compass, dark immortal cloud, drowning world bottle, 7 wonders tree, smelting divine cauldron. There were also dozens of 12th nirvana treasures and hundreds of treasures below the 12th nirvana level. As for Ning Fan himself, he seized the opportunity and did not engage in a battle with those black shadows. Instead, he took the opportunity to move closer to the Iron Tower. 400 zhang. 300 feet. 20 zhang. 10 zhang. Rings of halos that contained the chi of the 3rd step mysteriously appeared in front of Ning Fan. Without exception, those halos were the halos that only the incipient Saint Realm possessed. They were the true divine abilities of the incipient Saint Realm. Even with the strength of Ning Fan's god-destroying shield, he could not break through those halos and cross the last 10 zhang to reach the Sword Ancestor. Instead, he coughed out blood from the impact of those halos. So, I can only watch the Sword Ancestor disappear? Ning Fan gritted his teeth with an unwilling expression. He dashed towards the halos of the incipient saint again and again. However, it was naturally impossible for him to break through those divine abilities. After tens of breaths, half of the Sword Ancestor's white bones had already turned into ashes. Seeing that Ning Fan was still rushing towards her, the Sword Ancestor let out a faint sigh. She raised one of her hands and a massive aura spread out. For a moment, it actually suppressed all the forces in heaven and earth that were preventing Ning Fan from getting closer to her. It destroyed all of the ancient black shadows. It blasted away all the halos of the incipient Saint Realm. Just by raising his hand, there seemed to be a sword chi that could slay all fiend gods and devils, looking down upon heaven and earth. Ning Fan, who had lost all the obstacles, was slightly stunned. Then he broke through the last 10 zhang and landed on the Iron Tower with 9 floors. If he relied on himself, he would not have been able to do this. It was all thanks to the Sword Ancestor. The moment Ning Fan set foot on the Iron Tower, the terrifying sealing power of the tower directly stripped away all of his cultivation base, making it hard for him to maintain his god-exterminating giant body. He immediately returned to his original form. The magic power in his body became even more difficult to circulate. As his power was depleted, he nearly collapsed to the ground. After stabilizing his body with great difficulty, Ning Fan walked towards the Sword Ancestor's throne while withstanding the sealing power of this place. However, when he got closer, he helplessly realized that he could not stop the Sword Ancestor from turning into ashes at all with his current cultivation base. What destroyed the Sword Ancestor was the power of the Great Tao of the 3rd step. No, it was not just the 3rd step. It might be even higher. It was a terrifying power that was unimaginable in the illusionary world of the last days. The Sword Ancestor could shatter the beginning Saint Ring with just a raise of her hand. However, even she could not resist this power. What happened to Senior? Why did such an unforeseen event happen as soon as you saw me? Ning Fan let out a long sigh and asked. The Sword Ancestor opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. However, she could no longer convey any words. All she could do was to face Ning Fan in silence. She had already passed away countless years ago. The so-called Madam of White Bones was just her remains. She had been holding on until now with a trace of obsession. Today, however, after seeing Ning Fan, even this trace of obsession disappeared like smoke. As a persistent cultivator, how could Ning Fan not notice this? However, even though he could see it, he could not understand it. Could it be that the last obsession of the dignified sword ancestor before she died was to see me? That's why her obsession disappeared after she saw me and was erased by samsara. Ning Fan had a guess, but he found it hard to believe. I don't understand. Even though Senior was the one who brought me out of the butterfly's hometown, this matter doesn't seem to be enough to cause Senior to have such a huge obsession. Is there any huge karma between Senior and me that I don't know? Ning Fan asked in confusion. Silence. There was still silence. After Senior disappeared, I don't think I can repay the karma that I owe you anymore, right? Ning Fan smiled bitterly. The sword ancestor still remained silent. What's with this key? It seems to be formed from your tears. It can open the giant door of infinite wasteland in this place. Ning Fan took out the gray tear key that flew out from the scripture hiding tower previously. The sword ancestor glanced at the key. His emotions became complicated, but he still remained silent. At the beginning of my cultivation, I met a woman who looked almost the same as you, but her chi was completely different from yours. However, I have a feeling that she has a certain connection with you. It's not just a simple connection like reincarnation, but something else. There was still silence. In the Supreme Pill Sacred region, there is also a woman who looks very similar to you. She is another one of the 5 venerables of great inferiority. This Debay seemed to have a lot of her plans. She seemed to be a very scheming and shrewd woman. The various experiences that I had after I came to the Supreme Pill Sacred region seemed to have a trace of karma with her coincidentally. 10 venerables? This name finally caused a slight ripple in the sword ancestor's emotions. That ripple was anger. However, after the anger, there was bitterness. He could not say anything and could only remain silent. Like me? Ning Fan subconsciously asked this question. It was an intuition. His intuition made him say this because according to his speculation, the sword ancestor's obsession was related to him. The longing that was hidden in the sword intent seemed to be related to him too. For a woman to be so concerned about a man, it was most likely related to love. However, after saying that, Ning Fan's face suddenly turned red. He felt that it was a little inappropriate to ask such a direct question. It was indeed a little shameless. Facing this question, the sword ancestor remained silent for a while and actually chose to shake his head. Ning Fan suddenly had a feeling that he was overthinking. He smiled awkwardly and apologized to the sword ancestor. Senior, I'm sorry, and I've offended you. Inwardly, he thought, as the butterfly of the true world, could it be that I owe the sword ancestor some huge karma? Otherwise, how could I make such a strange woman like the sword ancestor keep thinking about me so much that she would not even let her corpse disappear like smoke? She would only disappear after seeing me once. Besides, this kind of unforgettable feeling seems to have nothing to do with love. Between men and women, if it's not about love, then it's about benefits? Inexplicable, really inexplicable. I can't stop Senior from disappearing. With my cultivation base, the only thing I can do for Senior is to send him off. I'm sorry. Ning Fan smiled bitterly. His body instinctively did not want the sword ancestor to disappear just like that. However, he could not do it. The sword ancestor's emotions fluctuated slightly. She seemed to be a little displeased because Ning Fan kept addressing her as Senior. As time flew by, she was finally about to disappear completely. She raised her palm that only had white bones left with difficulty and stretched it to Ning Fan's hand. It was unknown whether she wanted to hold Ning Fan's hand or do something else. In short, she withdrew her hand halfway. Her behavior was extremely strange. Even when she turned into ashes and vanished into thin air in the end, she still did not take that step forward. Thus, she would never have the chance to do so. A great sovereign of a generation actually vanished just like that. Why is the obsession of this great sovereign just to see me before she died? Ning Fan felt a little disappointed. After thinking for a while, he kept the ashes of the sword ancestor in a jade box and kept it carefully. He thought to himself that if he could go to the true world one day, he would bury the sword ancestor's corpse in her hometown. This action might be able to slightly repay the karma he owed the sword ancestor. An unknown sadness suddenly gushed out from his heart, making Ning Fan feel astonished and helpless. It was not the first time he encountered something related to the sword ancestor that triggered his strange emotions. After he came to the Supreme Pill Sacred Region, all the things he encountered seemed to be shrouded in a layer of fog. He did not know how many brain cells he had lost during this trip to the sacred region. Meeting the sword ancestor today was the first of many strange things he had encountered. It was completely inexplicable. However, there was also an indescribable feeling that was stuck in his heart. Long Sanchue told him many stories when they were on the way. He said that the Madam of White Bones in the Corpse Mountain Range was the nightmare of 3 flame cultivators. Countless 3 flame cultivators wanted to expiate this departed spirit, but to no avail. What was strange was that he had expiated the sword ancestor's soul after meeting her once. He had eliminated the sword ancestor's last obsession. Could it be that it would be better if I didn't appear? Then, senior sword ancestor's corpse could still exist in this world. Ning Fan suddenly had a strange thought. Then he suppressed it. In any case, the sword ancestor had already disappeared from this world. It was useless for him to sigh now. There was another important thing he had to do now. It was to quickly take the 9 raccoon sacrificial vessel and get out of the cave to help Long Sanchue fight against the pursuers of the Stone Lord. Ning Fan jumped down from the 9 floors of the iron building. After he jumped down, his cultivation base that was originally weakened by the power of the seal was restored to its original state. He first kept all the magic treasures that he used to block the black shadow. Then, his eyes scanned across the 10,000 sword sheaths on the stone wall with vigilance. These sword sheaths contained the sword ancestor's sword intent, but they did not perish together with the sword ancestor. There was only one possibility. These sword sheaths were set up by the Southern Medicine Saint when he was still alive. They were used to defend against others from taking the sacrificial vessel. It had nothing to do with the sword ancestor's will. In this case, even if the sword ancestor had already perished, Ning Fan would still be attacked by the 10,000 sword sheaths if he takes the 9 raccoon sacrificial vessel. A ray of gray sword light was already so terrifying. If there are 10,000 sword sheaths, these sword sheaths, Ning Fan's eyes suddenly moved. Without any warning, the 10,000 sword sheaths exploded one after another. It was as if a trace of the sword ancestor's will that was hidden deep within them had detonated all the sword sheaths, destroying the Southern Medicine Saint's arrangement. Is it the last trace of the sword ancestor's will that remains in this world that is helping me? The 10,000 sword sheaths were destroyed by a trace of the sword ancestor's will. However, after they were destroyed, they recovered bit by bit under the power of the formation here. There was no time to lose. Ning Fan, of course, could not just sit and wait for the sword sheaths to recover. With a wave of his hand, he directly took the 9 raccoon sacrificial vessel and flew out of the cave. Along the way, the 49 sword sheaths were also destroyed by the sword ancestor's will again, and they were in the process of recovering bit by bit. As such, when Ning Fan left, he did not have to go through as much trouble as when he entered the cave. By the time all the sword sheaths in this place were fully reborn, Ning Fan had already taken the sacrificial vessel and fled without a trace. The process was far easier than he expected. It was so easy that it made him feel like everything was just a dream. Unknowingly, he had once again received a great favor from the sword ancestor. If it wasn't for the help of the sword ancestor's will, he would have to pay an enormous price to take the 9 raccoon sacrificial vessel in front of the 10,000 sword sheaths. At the same time when Ning Fan rushed out of the cave, the Death Emperor who was in the Meng clan far away in the Stone Flame continent suddenly sensed something. His expression changed. Not good. Something is happening in the Corpse Mountain range. At the same time, Supreme 10 Wasps who had just finished dancing and was resting in the Xiaofang Square of Lioli City in the Middle States suddenly frowned. I actually let that butterfly meet its true master. What is the flame ancestor doing? He actually allowed this young man to invade the corpse mountain range. In this case, doesn't the many arrangements that I made in order to scheme against this butterfly have the biggest loophole? Humph. I originally wanted to use the master of the blood martial weapon as bait to catch the butterfly's affection. Now, it seems like there is a possibility that my plan will be exposed. Forget it. If my plan is really exposed, I'll just use force against this butterfly. I will certainly get his butterfly seed. When Ning Fan transformed back into his ghost-faced silver hair and flew out of the karst cave, what he saw was the back of a blood-soaked figure with dragon wings spread open. In order to block the pursuers for him, Long Sanchue had already fought a bitter battle with Stone Master and the others outside the cave for 1 day and 1 night. Even though he was severely injured, he was not dead yet. He stubbornly refused to leave. His back view was quite tall and heroic. This Long Sanchue really did have some capabilities to be able to survive the siege of an 8-tribulation immortal emperor and thousands of true immortals for 1 day. Ning Fan had worried about him for nothing. Long Sanchue, are you out of your mind? In the past, you trespassed into this place without permission and got one of your eyes destroyed by the Void Lord. Now, you actually dare to trespass again. Do you really think that we, the masters of the 3 flames, can't kill you? Also, where did that immortal venerated companion of yours go? Could it be that this young man actually entered the White Bone Cave recklessly? With this young man's immortal venerated realm, what he did was simply seeking his own death. Stone Master was also injured. While leading his subordinates to attack Long Sanchue, he let out a disdainful snort, trying to disturb Long Sanchue's mind with words and make him reveal a flaw. Nonsense. My younger brother Ning's strength is not much weaker than an ancient immortal venerated realm expert. How can he die in the White Bone Cave so easily? Long Sanchue laughed loudly while resisting the siege. Make way. If you still don't make way, don't blame me for being merciless and killing you for real. Stone Master said angrily. With me here, no one can disturb my younger brother's business. All of you can stay here. Bang. 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 Long Sanchue's dragon claws danced wildly. Another 3 ancient immortal venerated realms were sent flying while coughing out blood. All of a sudden, Long Sanchue sensed Ning Fan walking out of the White Bone Cave. His body flashed and he flew to Ning Fan's side. Under the gloomy eyes of Stone Master and the other mountain guards, he laughed loudly and said to Ning Fan, "Did you succeed? Yes. We can leave this place now." Ning Fan's eyes swept across Long Sanchue's injuries with a complicated look inside. Then, he turned his head and looked at the giant gate of infinite wasteland that was hanging high in the sky nearby. To be honest, the current him was not too interested in going to the true world. Even if he had the key to the gate, it was unlikely that he would open the gate. He was different from those cultivators of the illusion realm who were passionate about going to the true world. Let's come again in the future. Ning Fan and Long Sanchue's bodies flashed and they changed their path. They entered the dense forest and retreated from the depths of the ancient trees. They completely ignored Stone Master and the others. How arrogant! Damn it! This brat actually came back alive from the White Bone Cave. Moreover, he said that he had succeeded. Could it be? We should leave a group of people here to check if there are any losses in the White Bone Cave. The rest of us will continue to chase after these 2 intruders with me. We must not let them leave the Corpse Mountain range alive. That ghost-masked cultivator. There's no mistaking it. He's exactly the same as the portrait. He's the madman who annihilated the He clan. Stone Master's face was filled with anger, but his heart was filled with joy. I've searched far and wide for him. I actually found the madman who annihilated the He clan in this place. The corpse of the quasi-saintess that I snatched from the He clan must still be in his hands. If I can kill this brat here, I might be able to take back the corpse of the quasi-saintess from his hands. If I can do it secretly and not let the other 2 Flame Lords know about it, I might even be able to keep the corpse for myself without the other 2 Flame Lords knowing about it. It would not be like how it was in the past where the 3 clans agreed on how to divide the corpse. Soon, however, Stone Master could no longer feel happy. With Long Sanchue leading the way, the conceited Stone Master lost sight of the two of them again. At the border of the Corpse Mountain Range, a certain boundary formation suddenly became chaotic. Then two figures dashed out from it. After a few flashes, they disappeared from the sight of the guards of the mountain range. One day later, a piece of news once again caused a huge uproar in the Three Flames. The ghost-masked cultivator who annihilated the He clan had actually successfully invaded the Corpse Mountain Range under the watch of Lord Mu and Lord Stone. As for the losses in the Corpse Mountain Range, Lord Mu and Lord Stone did not tell anyone about it. After the incident, only the two of them and the dead emperor who arrived late knew the truth. How could the strongest expert of the 5 venerated beings of Debay be killed by an immortal venerable? Are you two joking with me? In the palace of the Corpse Mountain Range, the dead emperor's usual gloomy expression was gone. He directly shouted at Lord Mu and Lord Stone. Even though Lord Mu and Lord Stone were displeased by the dead emperor's arrogant tone, they still could not hide the joy on their faces. Why are you so angry, Space Lord? It is true that the invasion of the Corpse Mountain Range by 2 rascals is a great disgrace to us. But isn't Madame Whitebone's corpse what we, the 3 Flame Lords, have been pursuing for many years? Madame Whitebone's existence is a huge threat to us. Every time she wakes up and goes berserk, countless people will die. For many years, we have tried everything we can to kill her, but we still could not. Even though we do not know what that ghost-masked immortal venerable did, it is definitely good news for us to be able to kill Madame Whitebones. Of course, just based on the fact that he annihilated the He clan, we cannot let him go. Lord Mu smiled. Too trash. You really don't understand anything. Scram. If you don't scram now, don't blame me for chasing you away. The dead emperor said furiously. What? You are the same level as me, a Flame Lord. How dare you be so rude in front of us? You don't like it? If you don't like it, let's fight. A huge battle erupted in the Corpse Mountain Range. On one side was the strongest of the 3 flames, the dead emperor, and on the other side were the 2 8 tribulation immortal emperors, Lord Mu and Lord Shur. The result of the battle was that the dead emperor suppressed the other 2 flame lords alone, but he was also injured. Once again, he proved his title as the strongest in front of the 3 flames cultivators. The other 2 Flame Lords naturally could not stay here any longer after suffering a huge loss. After leaving angrily, they declared war on Sky Flame and used the power of the 2 continents to attack Sky Flame. The dead emperor did not want to care about the trivial matters of the outside world at all. He stayed in the palace alone with a gloomy expression, unwilling to speak for a long time. After a long time, a voice suddenly resounded in his body. Looks like we won't have the chance to obtain the supreme sword Tao of the number 1 immortal emperor of the desolate ancient immortal domain. We have wasted so many years of planning in this Corpse Mountain Range, but we didn't expect an outer cultivator to spoil our plans. If I knew this would happen, I would have killed that brat at all costs when I chased after him that day. The flame ancestor inside the dead emperor's body said in a deep voice. Lord Flame Ancestor, please calm down. This brat has ruined our plans time and time again. I will definitely not let him leave the Supreme Pill's sacred region alive. The dead emperor's eyes flashed with killing intent. No one knew what he was planning. After leaving the Corpse Mountain Range, Ning Fan and Long Sanchue arrived at the Stone Flame continent. According to Long Sanchue, he had a few innate dragon points in the territory of the Stone Flame continent which could shield him from the spirit sense of a quasi-saint realm expert. It was the best place for him to hide from powerful enemies and recuperate and cultivate. After doing such a big thing in the Corpse Mountain Range, he had to hide well for a while. He would come out again after the storm subsides. During this trip, he had successfully obtained Jiu Li's innate sacrificial tool. Ning Fan also wanted to find a secluded place to hold its coming-of-age ceremony. Thus, he came to the Stone Flame continent together with Long Sanchue. If Jiu Li becomes an adult, its strength would most likely improve. To him, it could also increase his leverage to rescue Sovereign Tuesday. Because of this joint invasion, Ning Fan and Long Sanchue had a certain level of friendship. If it wasn't for Brother Long's help, I'm afraid I would have to go through a lot more trouble to achieve this. This is just a small gift to express my gratitude. Ha! Brother Ning, you're too polite. Both of us are Long. We should help each other. Talking about gifts will hurt our relationship. If you really want to thank me, just treat me to some good wine. There's no need for gifts. This is actually a low-grade innate sacrificial tool of the Long clan. Could it be that brother is actually giving me such a precious item? Where did this item come from? I stole it from the White Bone Cave. Ning Fan smiled. Sacrificial tools were different from magic treasures. Other than possessing the offensive and defensive abilities of magic treasures, they usually had some special uses. Only the cultivators of the corresponding races could use those special uses, such as inheritance and reproduction. Other than being used as innate magic treasures, low-grade innate sacrificial tools were usually regarded as the inheritance of a race. Their value was much higher than ordinary innate magic treasures. When Ning Fan entered the White Bone Cave this time, not only did he take away the Nine Fox Clan's innate sacrificial tool, he also took away a few other innate grade sacrificial tools along the way. His harvest was not small. Coincidentally, one of them was the innate sacrificial tool of the Long clan. Ning Fan was very grateful to Long Sanchue for his help along the way. Thus, he generously gave that innate sacrificial tool of the Long clan to Long Sanchue. For someone like him who had a lot of treasures, ordinary low-grade innate magic treasures were no longer attractive to him. Moreover, he was not a real Long. Thus, it was meaningless for him to keep the sacrificial tool of the Long clan. However, it was different for Long Sanchue. With this sacrificial tool, he could marry many dragon concubines and carry on his family line. I can finally have descendants. With this sacrificial tool, I will definitely marry 8 to 10 dragon concubines and give birth to a large number of little Long. Long Sanchue said excitedly. Cultivation was a heaven-defying thing. The higher one's cultivation base was, the harder it was to get children through intercourse. There were countless true immortals who lived their whole lives alone in the cultivation world. It was not that all of them did not stay away from women. It was just that it was difficult for them to have children. In the cultivation world, there were also secret techniques that were specifically used to get children. There were also special heavenly materials and earthly treasures that could directly give birth to life without the intercourse between men and women. However, if one was strong enough to become a first-grade immortal emperor, it would be very difficult to find a secret technique that could help a first-grade immortal emperor to give birth to offspring. If there were no such restrictions, an immortal emperor could easily give birth to thousands of children given his or her long life. That would be extremely terrifying. If an immortal emperor of a special race had an innate sacrificial tool, he or she would have a certain chance of successfully getting children through the ceremony, producing offspring. Children, Seeing that Long Sanchue would actually be so happy about this matter, Ning Fan was slightly surprised. Then he burst into laughter. However, he took out a gray tier key from his bosom. After trying to communicate with the key, he felt an indescribable regret. In the past, this key could talk to Ning Fan even though he did not know how to communicate with all living things. Now, this key no longer made any sound. It would no longer tell Ning Fan the words "the Lord doesn't recognize his concubine." It would also no longer call Ning Fan little butterfly. Listening to the voice of the key, it could only hear the same words. I am a tear. You are the key, all right? I am a tear. It's a tear, all right. It's reasonable to say that you are the sword ancestor's tear. In the past, the sword ancestor turned his tear into the key to the giant gate of heaven wasteland. I am a tear. It's a tear. The disappearance of the sword ancestor was really regrettable. It made him unhappy. I am a tear. It's a tear. So noisy. I am a tear. It's a tear. I am a tear. It's a tear. It's a tear. Long Sanchue insisted on pulling Ning Fan to a place 100 feet away from the dangerous building to drink the ancient wine. In the end, Long Sanchue's alcohol tolerance was astonishing. He forcefully made Ning Fan drunk. There were always some unknown emotions that could only be forgotten by good wine. Or perhaps he still couldn't let it go. 7 days later, Ning Fan bid farewell to Long Sanchue and left the Stone Flame Dragon Cave. Along with him, there was also an expressionless young lady who had black cat ears on her head. She wore a black dress and black silk stockings. "Master, are we not going to play at Uncle Long's place anymore?" Speaking of which, Black Devil is already an adult. Black Devil can already do all kinds of things with Master. He can give Master many little masters. When will Master pamper Black Devil? You have just become an adult. Don't keep thinking about reproduction. You have been infected by Long Sanchue. Remember, stupidity is contagious. Ning Fan felt a slight headache. Then, Master, where are we going now? Leave the Stone Flame Dragon Cave. But before we leave, we can take revenge on a small matter. Master, are you talking about the Stone Flame Meng family? Smart. The Meng family was filled with wedding banquets and red lanterns. Today was the day that the old ancestor of the Meng family, Meng Baixiong, was going to marry his concubine. There was an endless stream of guests who came to congratulate him. However, there were some insiders who knew the truth. The Meng family was about to decline. First, the devil son of the Meng family was mysteriously killed. It caused the Stone Flame Lord to reprimand the Meng family severely, showing signs of losing the trust of the Stone Flame Lord. After that, Meng Baixiong left the territory of the family. No one knew where he went. When he came back, it was said that he was chased by the Golden Flame Ancestral Token. Even though he did not die on the spot, his injuries were hard to heal and there was no way he could turn the situation around. His lifespan was approaching and it would be within the next few decades. A great emperor of a generation was on the verge of falling. How many people sighed with regret? However, there were also more people who clapped and cheered. Meng Baixiong was a loner in his life. He did not have a wife or children. Before he died, he thought of marrying a concubine and having children so that he could leave some descendants in this world. The thought was very good. However, the actual behavior was a bit absurd. Meng Baixiong did not just marry one concubine. He actually married over 100 people at once. Moreover, they were basically the direct descendants of the Meng family's subsidiary forces, who would be willing to marry their clan's direct descendants into the declining Meng family. Moreover, they were going to marry Meng Baixiong, this old thing who was about to die. So what if he was an immortal emperor? If he died, everything would be for naught. Moreover, once the Meng family declined, these subsidiary forces would most likely abandon the Meng family to find a new master. If they were to be involved with the Meng family, it would be somewhat troublesome. The Meng family had a lot of enemies in the Stone Flame clan. When Meng Baixiong was still alive, those enemies would not make a move, but if Meng Baixiong died, "Old ancestor, you forced my clan's subsidiary forces to offer their direct descendants as concubines. This matter has already caused a large number of forces. I hope old ancestor will reconsider. If you let go at this time, there will still be room for mediation." The current Meng family patriarch advised Meng Baixiong. "Stupid. I forcefully married the direct descendants of so many forces just to find a way out for the declining Meng family. If I can be involved with so many forces, even if I turn into dust, you and the other juniors should be able to barely maintain your family's business in the cracks of the Stone Flame clan. Don't try to persuade me anymore. Go and call out the minister. Let's carry out the ceremony." Meng Baixiong suppressed the death chi on his face and forcefully propped up a smear of red light. Under the service of the maids, he put on a wedding dress. When he arrived at the auditorium, over 100 women wearing red veils showed a trace of resentment towards Meng Baixiong at the same time. They hated Meng Baixiong for forcefully marrying them. They hated that their life's happiness was about to become the scheme of this dying old man. "Minister? Can we carry out the ceremony?" Meng Baixiong forcefully put on an imposing manner and asked the minister with an indifferent expression. "Old ancestor, please wait a moment. There are still some guests from the great clans that have yet to arrive." "Which forces are missing?" Meng Baixiong knitted his brows. He was about to die, and many forces were unwilling to be involved with the Meng family. The reason why they had yet to arrive was not because they were late, but because they did not intend to come. Humph! Those snobbish people. The Meng family of Huanghua Valley, the Ji family of Ziluhe, the leader of Shi Yan's personal guards, Lord Yuan Lang, the quasi-emperor realm rogue cultivator Wang Gu are still missing. I, Ning Fan, am still missing. In the wedding hall, an uninvited guest suddenly barged into the martial law of the Meng family. He slaughtered hundreds of armored guards and arrived at the wedding hall, leaving behind a trail of blood. The entire wedding hall immediately fell into chaos. It was because the enemy of the Meng family was a cultivator with silver hair and a ghost face. Ghost face and silver hair. It's the lunatic who destroyed the Meng family and invaded the Corpse Mountain Range. This person intruded into the Meng family with malicious intentions. What should we do now? This person could even kill Ancestor He. Meng Baixiong, who is half dead, is definitely his opponent. His reputation is well-deserved. The great calamity of the Meng family has arrived. Ning Fan just stood silently at the entrance of the wedding hall. However, he gave everyone a powerful aura force that was as vast as the heavenly might. His white robe and silver hair were even more out of place compared to the jubilant atmosphere of this place. What is heaven? All the true immortals present were shocked. Ning Fan's presence seemed to have replaced the heavenly Tao of this place, giving them a fatal threat. Even an immortal emperor like Meng Baixiong found it a little difficult to withstand Ning Fan's aura force when he was in a weakened state. Who exactly are you? First, you annihilated the He family. Then, you trespassed into the Corpse Mountain Range. After the Wood Flame and Sky Flame committed a great crime, you came to our Meng family to create trouble. Do you really not put us, the Tri-Flame cultivators, in your eyes? So what if I put you in my eyes? So what if I don't put you in my eyes? Arrogant brat. Meng Baixiong was enraged. Many cultivators who regarded the Stone Flame family as their honor were also enraged. Under the influence of Ning Fan's reputation, Meng Baixiong did not dare to directly attack him. Instead, he calmed himself down and called out to the immortal venerables and immortal kings of the other forces around him. Everyone, what are you hesitating for? Quickly join forces with me to eliminate this devil. I, the Lord of the Stone Flame, have set an extremely heavy reward for this person. He is just an immortal venerable. If we join forces, we will certainly be able to eliminate him here. The great merit is right in front of us. Why are you still hesitating and acting like little girls? Meng Baixiong actually wanted to drag all the forces who were his enemies or friends into this mess. After analyzing the pros and cons, a large number of experts of the Stone Flame family immediately responded to Meng Baixiong's call and glared at Ning Fan. However, there were also many cautious people who kept a distance from the people of the Meng family after some hesitation. They wanted to observe the situation. Who exactly are you? How dare you act like this in the Tri-Flame family, and yet, you hide your head and show your tail. I really don't know if you are extremely bold or just a coward. Meng Baixiong mocked. Meng Baixiong, you actually asked me who I am? Don't tell me you have forgotten who it was that injured you to such a state? The taste of the Golden Flame ancestral token must have been unpleasant, right? Ning Fan smiled indifferently. His words made Meng Baixiong freeze on the spot. His face was filled with disbelief. Could the ghost-masked cultivator who stirred up the hurricane in the entire Tri-Flame family be? That junior external cultivator. How is this possible? It is impossible for that junior external cultivator to give me such an oppressive feeling. This is definitely not true. There's no need to talk nonsense. No matter who you are, since you came to my Meng family to create trouble today, I won't let you leave here alive. Immortal washing battle, take this kid away from me. Meng Baixiong let out a cold snort. He spat out a ray of golden light which pressed down on Ning Fan. Immediately, many people in the crowd exclaimed in surprise. It's an innate magic treasure. It's actually the famous magic treasure of the old ancestor of the Meng family. It's the immortal washing battle that is said to take in everything. This external cultivator might be able to withstand the power of an innate expert. On that day, Ning Fan had suffered some losses in Meng Baixiong's immortal washing battle. Moreover, the flying swords of the four emperors Luo Hansong were all devoured by this battle. But now, boom with a punch, he directly sent the earth-shattering immortal washing battle flying with just the strength of his physical body. The vast wind pressure immediately caused the surrounding cultivators to lose their balance. Countless of them fell to the ground. The entire wedding hall collapsed under the wind pressure. When the wave of the punch spread out, tens of thousands of houses in the Meng family began to collapse. The immortal washing battle is just SOS. Ning Fan sneered. Countless gasps could be heard. Even Meng Baixiong himself was in a state of deep shock. This kid actually used his physical body to withstand the power of an innate magic treasure. How is this possible? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.